Hello, everybody. Welcome back to my attempt to read Edgar Allan Poe. Interestingly, the audio is working. That's good. Interestingly, we had 7 people in here, and then they saw the spinning logo, and they decided to leave. That's fine. Maybe we'll have to get some good ambient music for people to listen to. But we were going back to Edgar Allan Poe, and of course, in our search for the quest to read Edgar Allan Poe, we found, the Gothic literature style. And then we found Gothic architecture. And then we asked, why is it called Gothic architecture? And then we said, oh, it has to do with the Goths, right? The Goths. And then we said, well, what's that all about? I forget how we got from the Goths to Sarah Theodora, but we did somehow or another get to Sarah Theodora. Howdy, hello, howdy. So we were looking at some of the children here, and let me just make sure that what's on my screen is the same as what's on your screen, so I'm not sneaking a peek at anything that you can't already see. So maybe we'll take this and scoop it on over here. What happens if we do this? Oh, I see, because I have to have that on top. Here we are. All right, is this looking good? I think it's looking good. Cromwell has some product advice. You need to start being more organized and have some basic theme and a hello catchphrase. What should my hello catchphrase be? I've got something on my shirt. It's a piece of lint. That's fine. What should the hello catchphrase be? It's hard to do a hello catchphrase. I'm like antithetical to the hello catchphrase. You know, see, you're basically... And it annoys me, not because I think Nick is a bad guy, but when people compare me to him, it's like, oh, so what am I? I'm just like a second-rate Nick at that point. And so then it's the catchphrase, it's hard to do. It's hard to do. What do you think? Give me a script for the catchphrase. But besides that, I think we have to start small. We have to start with a small little catchphrase and work from there. So we're looking at, I have a badge with my name is Karen. I don't know if that's actually going to help. But we are looking at these children, and I think I've already opened them up. Kara Tamara. I thought I saw her yesterday. Kara Tamara. Tetra Evangelia, a manuscript. A Bulgarian princess. The sister of Ivan Shishman. The Shishman dynasty. The Shishmanids. So you have an entire house of Shishman, which is like... It looks like you've got a bunch of lions smiling with Joker noses, or is that a gag? Nick with a flat affect. Yeah, I do have a flat affect. But it looks like it looks like we have here the gag, or whatever, that fetish, red ball or whatever. The House of Komnenos, the House of Asin. So the Tsardom of Vidin. I'm supposing these are all in Bulgaria. A medieval Bulgarian royalty dynasty of Cuman origin. So the Cumanites are these, excuse me, These Kumanites are these guys who originate from what looks like Kazakhstan, and then they spread across the... Apparently there's a Ural River. I didn't know there was a Ural River. I thought it was just the Ural Mountains. But they spread across the Urals, over the Volga, over the Don, over the Dnieper, and the Dniester, into the Danube. That's where they end up, these Kumans. So the SHEESH ruled from 1323 to 1422. The SHEESH were related to an earlier dynasty. The despot Shishman of Vidin, the brother of George I of the Terter dynasty. So the despot Shishman of Vidin, is this the same Shishman, the daughter of Anna Theodora, daughter of Serbian? Oh, so he has these two wives. He was a despot. Anti-Serbian campaign. He was a Kuman. Okay. These Kumans were ruling in places like Bulgaria. The Kumans, the Shishmanids, the anti-Serbian campaign. All right, so we've got all these guys. It's just showing you the symbols, the different fighters. Stratsimir, he looks like a cool guy. Captured by the Ottomans and was strangled. Stratsimir. Let's see. Anyone else? Michael the Third Shishman. Ivan Shishman. What other Shishmans? We have Helena. So Stratsimir, Stratsimir, like mir in Russian, either means peace or it means world. I don't know what Strats means. First husband was despot Constantine. We're getting lost. Karatsa of Bulgaria. We're definitely getting lost in these genealogies. Ivan Shishman. His half-brother Ivan Stratsimir. Interesting. The conflict between Stratsimir and Shishman. Let's learn about him. Shishman was the eldest son of Emperor Ivan Alexander and his second wife, Sarah Theodora, a Jew converted to the Eastern Orthodox Church. So let's see what happens with Mr. Shishman. Shishman controls this area of what is part of today, what is the coastal region of Romania, as well as what's today known as Bulgaria, as well as getting down perhaps toward Greece and over into Serbia. Okay. This is Mr. Shishman. What are the interesting facts here? The interesting facts about Mr. Shishman. I don't know, we have, the Barlamites. Here we go. Hesychasm, a mystical tradition of contemplative prayer based on the injunction, whenever you pray, go into your room and shut the door and pray to your Father who is in secret. Okay. Bulgaria was the center of hesychast ideas. Evtimi was an active opponent. The influence of the Bogomils, the prominent heretical movement, excuse me, has been greatly reduced. The Barlamites were persecuted and repressed. Okay. Bulgarian culture, the second South Slavic influence on Russia. The legacy of Shishman. Bulgarian historians have had mostly negative assessments of Mr. Shishman. He's often viewed as having intruded onto the throne due to the intrigues of his mother, and thus taking the place of the rightful successor, his elder brother Ivan Stratsimir. Okay, are we learning about Sarah Theodora? She engages in intrigues in order to get her son on the throne rather than the rightful successor, Ivan Stratsimir. So you look at this, and does it not remind you of the Bible already? Does it not remind you of that biblical story where you have a rightful son to inherit, Esau? He's the elder son. He's the strong. Ivan Stratsimir even looks like Esau. Let's take a look at Ivan Stratsimir. Ivan Stratsimir of Bulgaria. Look at this guy. He looks like an Esau, doesn't he? He's big. He's hairy. He's hirsute. He's. I mean, this was painted in the 19th century, so not accurate. But he was the eldest surviving son of Ivan Alexander. He was disinherited in favor of his half-brother. Let's see. Stratsimir was the last ruler of medieval Bulgaria before, I suppose, what happened was the Ottomans invaded. Early life, he was born in Lovech, which is somewhere in Bulgaria. The second son of Theodora, so this is a different Theodora. This isn't Sarah Theodora, but this is Theodora of Wallachia. The daughter of Basarab I of Wallachia. Who was Basarab? Basarab was a voivode, a military commander. His name is of Turkic origin, but they state he was a Vlach. A Vlach is a Romanian. So his father, Thocomerius, who is Thocomerius, and Radu Negru. Thocomerius, father of Basarab, let's see, who was this guy? Basarab derives from a Cuman and Tartar named Tok-Tamir, hardened steel, the Chingisid prince. So he is a descendant of Genghis Khan. A Turkic name. Interesting. So there's some Turkish ancestry or Mongolian ancestry, and then you have Radu Negru. Radu Negru, the founder of Wallachia. Radu is Slavic for joy. Radu is common today. That's all we know about Radu Negru. Royal charter. Let's see his origins. The son of Thocomerius. Seneslao. There's like 3 different dads this guy could have had. Seneslao, also Senislav, or Stanislav, which is still a popular name today, was a Vlach voivoda mentioned in the diploma of the Joanites, or the Knights of St. John. So he is of Slavic origin. So we've got Slavs, we've got Jews, we've got Turks, we've got Mongolians ruling over these people. Basarab's name is of Turkic origin. Bas means to rule, and Abba means father. So Basar, Basaraba, Basarab. Let's see, his name implies he had Pecheneg ancestry. Let's see, what can we say? Basarab was a Catholic. The Cumans had been baptized according to the Catholic rite. His reign, the reign of Basarab, he was disloyal to the crown of Hungary. The territories of Hungary. The Wallachians invaded, or they betrayed the king. A diptych, which is, I guess, a pair of plates. People are committing suicide. Theodora. we're getting the general feel of the history here. So this is Theodora, who is descended from either, who knows, either Turks or Mongolians or Slavs. It's not quite clear. Ivan Asen IV, a Bulgarian prince. The Turks killed Asen and a great number of Bulgarians. Many Janissaries perished in the battle. Okay. So this is back to Ivan Stratsimir. Ivan Stratsimir is running around. He's having a good time. Emperor of the Bulgarians and the Greeks. Forced to accept Catholicism, the Christianization of Bulgaria, an Orthodox anti-Hungarian coalition. Let's see. So he's ruling that area over there. The Ecumenical Patriarchate of Constantinople. Culture. Look at this script. Does this look like Latin script to you? This is like some ancient Slavic stuff right here. This is like old Slavonic. So there are the Tarnovo Literary School. Catholicism. His family. The SHEESH man. Okay, so we've got SHEESH man, Hiratsa, Petritsa, Belauer. They've got this genealogy going on. We have Ivan Stefan, Ivan Alexander. So ultimately, there is a very old SHEESH man. This SHEESH man is like the first SHEESH man of Vidin. Now, did he marry the Sarah? Did the first? No. The first SHEESH man was a different SHEESH man from the later SHEESH man. So there's all these SHEESH mans, and then you get Ivan Stefan, and then, oh, you have another SHEESH man. This is a different SHEESH man, son of Michael SHEESH man. Oh man, SHEESH man, all these SHEESH mans. I don't know if I can differentiate all of them. But then you eventually have Ivan Alexander. Now, Ivan Alexander has all these sons and daughters. Ivan Asen. He has Ivan SHEESH man, who isn't Ivan SHEESH man. Yeah, Ivan SHEESH man is married to Sarah Theodora, and then you also have Ivan Asen over here, and then you have Michael Asen, then you have Ivan Stratsimir. And then you have all these descendants, John Palaiologos, Emperor Autocrat of the Romans. So he was a Byzantine Empire. So let's be clear here. Let's look at the genealogy. Let's just make sure we've got this right. So Ivan SHEESH, okay. So this is Karatsa Maria, who is the issue, who is the descendant of, I'm not quite sure what's going on here. Ivan Alexander has all these different kids. One of them is Ivan SHEESH, and one of them is Karatsa Maria. I gotta be correct with this. That's where this Byzantine emperor comes from. So this Byzantine emperor is either a descendant, again, if you look back at the genealogy of Ivan Alexander is either a Turk or a Kuman or some kind of Turkic Mongolian guy descended from the original SHEESH man. And so he has a child who eventually gets to the throne of the Byzantine Empire. So you wonder why the Byzantine Empire falls. It's because it's neither Roman, nor is it Greek, but it's like Turkic, Mongolian, Kuman, Karatsa of Bulgaria is coming in here. So it's funny because I always think of the Ottoman Empire as an extremely multi-ethnic empire, but it looks like the Byzantine Empire was also that way. So we're looking at the descendants of Ivan Stratsimir, Constantine II. He was emperor of Bulgaria. John, we've already said, was emperor of Constantinople. And then the line seems to end. Look at this guy, this Fruisin. Let's look at some of these people over here. These are all descendants of Ivan Shishman, the Frusian and Patriarch Joseph II. So Frusian, you take a look at him. He looks a little bit, he could be a little Mongolian, Kuman, Turkic there. So he is a Tsar of Bulgaria, fought against the Ottomans. You know, again, this is what I guess the point of this, other than reading Edgar Allan Poe, the purpose of this is to say that when the Ottoman Empire invades and fights against Bulgaria and the Byzantine Empire, it's not a bunch of like non-European people fighting non-European people. It's actually Kumans fighting Turks, fighting Mongolians, fighting Jews. This history is very interesting to me. Joseph II of Constantinople. Which one is Joseph? Is it the little blonde boy or is it the guy with the big beard? I'm guessing the guy with the big beard. The son of Ivan Shishman. He dies. What does he become? He becomes the Patriarch of Constantinople. Then you have Ferdinand I of Naples, which I think is how he got to Shishman. Oh man, look at this guy, Ferdinand I of Naples. Quite aquiline there. There might be something amazing going on. You know, when people are like, man, you know, for all of history, Europe was this homogeneous landmass where the rulers and the ruled were the same people. Now we're ruled over by foreigners, and this is so ahistorical. This is Ferdinand I of Naples, just for reference. I don't know if that's a contemporaneous wood carving or what this is, but just an interesting piece of historical evidence we might put there. So I'm trying to look at his genealogy, because I know all this is supposed to be related. What is his genealogy? I think, let's go to the end. Let's see where he is. Knights. Okay, footnotes. Ferdinand has children. He married twice. I want to see his genealogy. He had many enemies. Mr. Ferdinand did. He had colorectal cancer, apparently. Let's see. He had a mummy. He had a considerable consumption of meat. The forces of the Ottoman Empire under Mehmed II captured Otranto. Now we remember Otranto. And I think then we went into Mehmed II. Don't we remember that? Mehmed II? This is how we got into Otranto and Mehmed II. So I don't know how I guess Ferdinand fought Mehmed the Conqueror, Mehmed II, but we were looking at the predecessor, Murad II, and we were looking at where Murad and his was Mehmed I, and then we were looking at Bursa, which is within Turkey, and his predecessor was Bayezid I, where it's all coming back to me now. And who was his father? His predecessor, Murad I. Here's Murad, and his predecessor was Orhan, and the predecessor of him was Osman I, and the predecessor of Osman. I don't know if Osman has a predecessor in this case. But we are oh my goodness, look at the Hatun family. This is a sculpture of Miss Hatun, Malhun Hatun. She's riding a horse. Kind of reminds you of like a Pocahontas, like a Native American caricature. Woman riding a horse, horse riding woman. There might be some relation in spirit between the Native Americans and the Turkic peoples. Just going to throw that out there. Osman, he has a dream. Emine, how do we get to Emine Hatun? The Emine Hatun, the mother of the Sultan, Dulkadirid princess. Okay, this is all very interesting. Emine Hatun. I don't know how we got to... Ivan Alexander of Bulgaria. Ivan Alexander of Bulgaria. Now we're getting some synchronicity because we're talking about the Black Death. But he was an emperor, and he was unable to cope with the mounting incursions of Ottoman forces, Hungarian invasions, and the Black Death. To combat these problems, he divided the country between two sons. So I'm guessing that was SHEESH and Stratsimir. He was the son of the despot Stratsimir of Kran. Literally of Kran. Kran. Petritsa. I guess the C here is a T. Stratsimir. Okay. So he was the son of Stratsimir. They keep changing the Latinization of the names, which is really annoying. Let's see. I want to get to the part where he decides Ivan Alexander reinforced by Mongol cavalry. Interesting. So he's fighting with Mongols. He looks to us like a second Alexander the Great. So they knew about Alexander the Great back then. This is before the Renaissance. They already knew about him. They already knew about classical Greece. So we're looking at the Bulgarian lands. The rise of Serbia. Serbia is rising. So let's see. I want to see what happens. At home, Ivan Alexander compromised the internal stability of his realm by divorcing his first wife, Theodora of Wallachia, and marrying a converted Jew also named Theodora. The new marriage produced new sons whom Ivan Alexander proceeded to crown co-emperors Ivan Shishman, so another spelling for you, and Ivan Asen V. Ivan Alexander's last surviving son from his first marriage, the co-emperor Ivan Stratsimir, became effectively independent. Ivan Alexander's rule over the other powerful vassals, such as the rulers of Wallachia and Dobruja, pursued their own foreign policies. Bulgaria fell prey to the aspirations of the Angevin Louis I of Hungary. So this is interesting. Angevin, these people over here. Who are the Angevids? A royal house from Anjou or Anjou or whatever. Charles I. Charles of France, the Lion. Okay, so we're looking at Charles. The lands ruled by Louis. That's pretty impressive. That's a nice chunk of land you got there, Louis. So apparently the Hungarians are ruled over by French people. So much for ethno-nationalism, right? The Hungarians are ruled over by French people somehow, who annexed Moldova, taking Ivan Stratsimir into captivity. Then you have the Savoyard Crusade, which I'm guessing is a crusade. What kind of crusade is this? Expedition to the Balkans, led by Count of Savoy, directed against the Ottoman Empire. Okay, so we've got some crusading going on. This is culture and religion, the second golden age of Bulgaria. All right, now we have Desislava of Bulgaria. All right, nothing much about Desislava. Ivan Asen of Bulgaria. He falling from the grace of the faith means he was probably allured by the Ottomans to convert to Islam. Okay. Ivan Stratsimir. Yes, back to SHEESH. This eventually resulted in the division of the country. There are no direct sources to suggest any significant attempts by SHEESH to fight off the Turks. The inconsistent policy of SHEESH has been described as revealing his weakness and inability to cope. His rule was still remembered in a treaty signed between the Ottoman Sultan and Louis II, who is of a very different phenotype than SHEESH. Some of the lands in question were referred to as the land of Emperor SHEESH. The memory of SHEESH remained. Claimed to have been a descendant from SHEESH. All these people want to be descended from SHEESH. His name is in a number of legends, myths, tales, and songs. He is represented as a heroic ruler who fought and died for his country against overwhelming forces. So we've got some contradictory narratives going on here in terms of the history of SHEESH. So we've got some heroic poems about SHEESH. Oh no, I don't think I can read these. I don't think I can read some of these things. Tartars, Tartarus, Christmas carols. He is a hero fighting dragons and oppressors, usually represented as Tartars. So the Bulgarians start to be anti-Tartar. Black blood. The ideal emperor. The patriotism of the SHEESH. Okay. The Ivan SHEESH of the day would be Ivanka Trump's children, right? Ivan Stratsimir, we already talked about him. Hera, Tamara. We just stumbled upon this, didn't we? The SHEESH dynasty, the Bayezid. How did we get from the Bayezids to the SHEESH? That's the mystery here. I don't know how I managed that. But this is Otranto, the castle of Otranto. Ah, yes. So we were talking about the castle of Otranto, the story of Manfred, lord of the castle, and his family. The book begins with the wedding day of his sickly son Conrad and Princess Isabella. Shortly before the wedding, however, Conrad is crushed to death by a gigantic helmet that falls on him from above. This inexplicable event is particularly ominous in light of an ancient prophecy that the castle and lordship of Otranto, which was invaded by the Ottomans apparently, which are related to the SHEESH somehow, should pass from the present family whenever the real owner should be grown too large to inhabit it. Manfred, terrified, resolves to marry his son's fiancée while divorcing his current wife, who he feels has failed to bear him an heir. Manfred attempts to marry Isabella. She escapes. Then we meet Theodore and Jerome. I'm not going to try the old pronunciation. They're interrupted by a trumpet and the entrance of knights from another kingdom who want to save Isabella. This leads the knights and Manfred to race to find Isabella. Theodore, having been locked in a tower by Manfred, is freed by Manfred's daughter Matilda. He races to the underground church, finds Isabella. He hides her in a cave, blocks it to protect her from Manfred, ends up fighting one of the mysterious knights. Theodore badly wounds the knight, who turns out to be Isabella's father, Frederick. With that, they all go up to the castle to work things out. Frederick falls in love with Matilda. He and Manfred make a deal about marrying each other's daughters. Okay. Manfred, suspecting that Isabella is meeting Theodore in a tryst in the church, takes a knife into the church where Matilda is meeting Theodore. Thinking his own daughter is Isabella, he stabs her. Theodore is then revealed to be the true Prince of Otranto, and Matilda dies, leaving Manfred to repent. He abdicates the principality, retires to religion along with Hippolyta, who he had previously divorced. Theodore becomes prince and is married to Isabella, for she is the only one who can understand his sorrow. So, very dramatic. I mean, this is basically a... what do you call it? This is a soap opera. So Gothic literature apparently is about soap operas. Apparently that's what we mean when we talk about soap operas. The novel is an attempt to blend the two kinds of romance, the ancient and the modern. Ancient romance is being defined by its fantastic nature, imagination, and improbability, while defining the modern romance as being more deeply rooted in literary realism with a strict adherence to common life. By combining fantastic situations, helmets from the sky, walking portraits with supposedly real people acting in a natural manner, created a new and distinct style of literary fiction, has been frequently cited as a template for subsequent Gothic novels. Secret passages, clanging trapdoors, pictures moving, doors closing by themselves. The novel made some of us cry a little and, in general, afraid to go to bed at night. The obvious connection to William Shakespeare is presented. Okay. Alright, so that's interesting. Mixture of comedy and tragedy. We've got some interpretations here. Film adaptations. This would be cool. So, Jan Schwankmajer in Czechoslovakia. Schwankmajer is a German name that they've made into a Czech name. And then you've got Effenberger and Schwankmajer and all these different people. I'd love to watch some films here. We could watch some interesting films. He did a Faust movie. He's got all kinds of movies. Castle of Otranto. Let's see. Castle of Otranto is this film. So he takes a Czech castle and he does the plot over again. Is there somewhere we can take a look at this? Otransky Zamek. Castle of Otranto. Okay, this is apparently some kind of surrealist film. We've got a gallery. Is this live action? Is this with people or is this animation? Looks like it's a bunch of animation to me, rather than being live action. Okay. So that's that. But that's the Castle of Otranto. Whoops. That's fine. Cutout animation style. Okay, we're back to Gothic fiction. The Shower Roman. And Hidden Passages. Got all kinds of Gothic fiction. The Old English Baron. Alright, so we've got people. This is interesting, the early history of female authors. I feel like the female literary tradition is the oldest thing that women get involved with in Europe. She was the daughter of Reverend William Reeve. So, an old Whig. The tendency of these Whig reverends to have feminist daughters is interesting. Castle of Otranto, Gothic fiction. Have we finally reached the point where we're actually going to read The Mask of the Red Death? Okay, so we've read a lot about The Mask of the Red Death. Here's a spooky painting. Is there going to be a link at the end where we can read it? See also film adaptations. Okay. The Mask of the Red Death. Is that going to be a big film? Or is this going to be a small film? What's this film going to be like? A Satanist. Alright, tell me, I want to see maybe an IMDb link. Let's see, is there going to be an IMDb link at the end? External links. Mask of the Red Death. Usually IMDb has some pictures. Sometimes. Okay, here we've got some pictures going on. This is a very 1960s film. People portraying this in film. For whatever reason, the aesthetics of the 1950s are real, or 1960s, I should say, are just really unattractive to me. Like all the films made in America in the 1960s, for whatever, are just like not like the hippie style infects everything. Like they're just portraying everything in the hippie style, and it's just very unattractive to me. This guy's a very smarmy man. How many pictures are there? It's like some of the elements are not bad. Some of the elements are not terrible. And I could see it going well under different circumstances. But under the present circumstances, under the circumstances of what it is, it's just not that great, right? Wow, we have 110 pictures of this film. We're basically downloading this film to our mind right now. She's stabbing herself, I think. We've got upside down cross tattoos, some promotional posters, some bath scenes, whatever kind of, I'm looking at like the amulet that he wears, and foreign language posters, because of course the entire world is watching American movies. Yep, I think we've seen all of that now. Okay, there's some movies to watch out there. Now let's bring this back. Okay. Where's the external link to actually read the thing? See also, film adaptations. Usually they have a section called external links, right? Mask of the Red Death. Okay, let's, oh, you cannot be found. Mask of the Red Death here. Oh, this is a summary. I don't want the summary. Annotated vocabulary. So this is, we can click on words and find out what they mean. Aha, spooky. Spooky alert. It's spooky time, everybody. We're getting spooky with it. Alright. We gotta make sure this is proportional. Zoom a little bit. We gotta bring it in. Alright. That looks good, right? The Red Death. We're going to read about the Red Death, and it's related to coronavirus. Apparently, Brian G. Brian G. has banned Cromwell. Let's find out why. Let's find out why. Just hanging out. Yeah, we are just hanging out. Nice jacket. Been unimpressed with your fashion. This is a more wholesome look. Yeah, I don't have the best fashion, but I'm probably not going to go clothes shopping for a little while. So you get what you get. Jesus Christ, have mercy on me, a sinner. Oh, damn, he coughed. Corona? Yeah, true. Corona is here. I've got it. The end is nigh. I was thinking the same thing. Why are you here, Arvel? Haven't you got better things to do? Oh, man. So, interesting. Stolen valor. When has Arvel ever claimed to be like, I've seen real combat. I've seen some things. I've been deployed. Has he ever claimed that? Not to my knowledge. Do you even know what stolen valor is? Deeply interesting. Yeah, I agree, John Smith. It is deeply interesting, that Bulgarian history. People are saying Corona doesn't cause infertility. Well, better safe than sorry. Being muted for some silly reason. You're muted for being insulting to other people in the chat. Sheesh, man. This Aardvark guy has a major obsession with me? What? How do you get that? How do you get to, you have an obsession with my channel, Cromwell? Arvel whether he's here or not, you're talking about him. I think there's some projection going on. I think you have an obsession with him. In fact, the story you've told me is you've been following him for a long time. You found out he had a peer academy, so you infiltrated it to destroy it. Sounds like you have an obsession. Building some enclave with a bunch of cultic followers he found online is the way. Yeah, I mean, I have mod rights on my other accounts. Really interesting. What is your other account? If Aardvark is me, it should be noted. I don't know who Cromwell is. He randomly DM'd me on Discord with death threats. I'm not concerned, though, says Arvol. Yeah, concerning the question of building an enclave with a bunch of cultic followers you found online. I guess the problem is the found online component. I really do have a lot of problems with people and the behavior I see from people online. It makes me not want to associate with people who I see online. When I see the kind of behavior that they get up to, it makes me want to just never have anything to do with them, never trust them, or anything like that. But as far as, like, look, we're in a certain situation here. You look at your options, you look at your possibilities for the future. And essentially the middle class is hollowing out, and I don't think nationalism is going to save you. I think nationalism is a band-aid. In fact, it's worse than that. Nationalism is a distraction. Nationalism is like, I have coronavirus. And nationalism is like, here, let me put band-aids all over your face. That will protect you. It's like, I have coronavirus. This is a theoretical, hypothetical. But if I said, I have a virus in general, and you start putting band-aids on my face called nationalism, I'm going to be like, how is this going to help me? How is it going to help me that, oh, Trump is going to bring back the jobs and we're going to close the border and blah, blah, blah. Like, that's not going to stop the hollowing out of the middle class. So ultimately, I think nationalism has not just diminishing returns. That would be the best case. It'd be like, it's not very effective, but I think it's even worse than that. I think it's actually a distraction from individuals in the here and now who are looking at the next 10, 20, 30, 40 years of your life, and hopefully if you're having kids, or if you're not having kids, you know, if you have some kind of community you're connected to, what's going to become of that? And the fact is that not a lot of people even have a community. Creating this anonymous thing where it's like alt-right versus nationalist, and like it's to me it seems like a huge distraction. To me, it's talking about these big policy shifts that aren't going to happen. It's talking about how can we ruin our lives over, you know, proposing these abstract policy proposals that will never come to pass. And all it's going to do is be a circle jerk of Democratic two-party politics, where we go from Obama to Trump to whoever's next, and back and forth and back and forth. And ultimately, the agenda is the same, whether it's Democrats or Republicans. And we've seen with Charlie Kirk that, unfortunately, as much as Nick likes to tout his action against Charlie Kirk as effective, I think it was the opposite of effective. I think it alienated the Trump family from nationalists, and now they're more and more deeply ingrained into the Charlie Kirk mindset, whether that was the case all along or whether that conflict merely brought it out for everyone to see. I think nationalism is a loser's game. And so what do you do then? What do you do? There are three classes, as I have said many times before: priests, merchants, and warriors. At this time, you look at the changing nature of warfare, and it's simply the case that warfare is becoming centralized in the hands of merchants and technocrats who have the drones, who have the biological weaponry, who have the nukes, who have the cyber warfare, who have the money to wage warfare. That's the changing nature of war. And so warrior class type people are getting left behind. You have the merchants and you have the priests. And, you know, what do you do with that? Merchants are people who make money. Priests are people who are about abstract ideas, bringing people together, spirituality. So that's like the media that we have, that religious component. So what do you then do with those two classes? You can either try to make money, which in this environment, very difficult to do for the middle class. If you can make $1 million or $1 billion or something, if you can make money, I'm not going to dissuade people from doing that. I'm not going to dissuade. Of course, in the current economic environment, I'd recommend people just try to lay low and maintain your assets rather than try to grow them. But some people are going to be profiteers. Mostly the people who are going to be able to best profiteer off this crisis is all of the small businesses are going to be decimated. They're all going to be destroyed because they don't have the reserves to keep their business afloat in tough times. Whereas the big mega corporations, the MAGA, Microsoft, Amazon, Google, and Apple, they have these reserves, and they also can call upon the government for a bailout. We know that the government and the corporations are one and the same. This whole libertarian versus socialist argument of like, it's the government. No, it's the corporations. It's both. It's both. There's no distinction between the two. And so, like, they know that they will be bailed out by the government just like Obama bailed out the banks. Doesn't matter whether it's Democrats or Republicans, they always get bailed out. So the rich are going to benefit in this recession, and the mega corporations are going to benefit, and the middle class will continue to be hollowed out. What do you do when you're faced with that situation? What is the best effective strategy? I think you have to dig in to religion, and the best way to do that is to form a community. Now, there are already communities. There are Orthodox Jews, and there are Amish, and there are fundamentalist evangelical Baptists, and there are all kinds of religious communities already existing in the United States. And if you want to join one of them, go ahead and join one of them. If for whatever reason those are unsatisfactory to you, and they are to me because I feel that they do not have a connection to the broader ecology of our global civilization, that is, like the Amish, they don't engage with technology. Well, the problem with that is if Vox or some left-wing publication starts accusing you of rape and molestation and incest, they don't have a lawyer class, they don't have an intellectual class, they don't have a government class with which to defend themselves, and they're going to be railroaded. That's how our legal system works in this country. If you don't have lawyers on your side, if you don't have big money for big lawyers, the system can do anything to you that it wants. We've seen that in a number of cases, of people being politically persecuted for, obviously trumped up charges. I mean, it's just completely transparent. No one cares, of course, because those people are effectively the modern day Satanists. Those people who are the enemies of the system, they have no legal recourse. They have no access to some kind of abstract ideal of fairness or the Constitution. No one cares about a piece of paper. No one cares about your abstract principles of liberty. Effectively, the state wields laws as a bludgeon against its enemies. So if you're not somehow connected into the system, then you're very defenseless. That's why I don't want to just join the Amish. The Mormons have a good system where they both have the birth rates and certain selective practices. And they also are infiltrated into the FBI and the CIA and the government broadly with people like Romney. Romney is basically king of the Mormons, effectively. And so they've got a decent strategy going, so I've been singing their praises for a while. But again, a lot of people don't like the Mormons because they've got this, they've got the baggage, the Book of Mormon, and some of the silliness of their, purported archaeology about different races of Native Americans fighting each other over Christianity 1,000 years ago or whatever. So some people don't like that, and so they're not willing to embrace Mormonism. I think a lot of it, there's a lot of quibbling and there's a lot of debate, and I think something like coronavirus shows us what can happen in a crisis. That in a crisis, a lot of these quibbles that people have are going to become irrelevant, right? Oh, is this historically accurate? Well, who cares? Who cares at the end of the day? What matters in the here and now is group cohesion. And so I wasn't born into the Mormon community. I was born into a liberal, secular, scientific, if you could even call it a community. I think that's even too strong of a word. Maybe an ecology I was born into. So that's my background. So I don't feel exactly at home among the Mormons. Don't necessarily have a home. And I don't think nationalism is that home. I think nationalism is a false home in the same way that pornography is a false sexuality in the same way that a prostitute is a false partner. So I think nationalism is a fake ethnos. I don't think that it is real at this point. I think at times in the past it was more functional because of the nature of industrial society, provided certain incentive structures, create a relationship between the middle class and the ruling class, where there was a mutually beneficial sort of symbiosis going on there. But with now the shift toward a post-industrial society, that's dissolved, and the middle class is collapsing because the ruling class has no reason to force the middle class to be religious and to be moral and to be disciplined and to be hardworking and to be fertile and fecund and marital and monogamous and all those things that built up the middle class, educated, all those things that made the middle class strong and wealthy. The incentives for the ruling class to enforce that process are gone. And all those things ultimately come from the ruling class. I don't think they come from within the middle class. So, how do you deal with that? How do you deal with all of that? I think it's as good a solution as any to say, like, well, look, if you live in the suburbs, if you live in urban space, you might have a tough time coming up here. We know that urban and suburban environments suppress fertility, suppress fecundity, both for biochemical reasons, exposure to plastics, exposure to 5G perhaps, exposure to noise pollution, exposure to light pollution. There's so many affects of suburban and urban life that suppress fertility, suppress natalism. And so if you want to survive into the future, you want your kids, you want your family, you want your kin group to survive, the best thing to do would be to move somewhere rural. I've made the argument before that to really be on the cultural edge, you do have to be in the city. This is where the early Christians were promoting their message. They went to the cities. They didn't go to the countryside. They went to the cities. So I think there is something important about being connected to the city and connected in with the latest memes and the latest culture and surfing that wave and sort of navigating this complex spider web. There's something to that. And so I'm not going full Amish. I'm not saying that everyone should be 100% rural. But what I am saying is that successful groups like the Mormons, the Orthodox Jews, the Amish, successful groups that are going to inherit the earth are going to have a contingent or a majority or 90% of their group is going to be focused on having kids, and maybe the 10% is going to be the priest class, which is not having kids, which is living in the urban environment and affecting policy and essentially being that external shell, that membrane that interacts with other groups in the rest of the world. So I think you sort of need both. And I think right now, when I look at like nationalism, it's purely an internet phenomenon for the most part in terms of its effectiveness. Like I can't find a single nationalist town in the United States of America. I guess you can say there are degrees of nationalism or whatever. People would dispute that and say, oh, well, the average American is a nationalist. Like we can get into what is the definition of nationalism effectively, because I think it's a very specific and peculiar ideology that most people disagree with. But nationalists play this semantic game where they will, when they want to inflate their numbers, they'll define nationalism very broadly as love of one's country, which everybody loves America. We're all nationalists. And then when you really drill down to it, their definition of nationalism, when they attack the cucks like Charlie Kirk, well, why is Charlie Kirk not a nationalist? He loves America. Well, he's not a nationalist because he doesn't believe in an ethnic conception of America. Okay, well, if that's your conception of America, then very, very few people in America are nationalists. But they'll keep playing this game back and forth to inflate their importance, as well as to attack people like Charlie Kirk. And maybe it will be effective. I don't think it will be. I think at some point, if people are going to survive the 21st century, you're going to need to have families. Not everyone is going to be able to do that. You know, I don't have a family, so we'll see. We'll see for me. But in the meantime, while I don't have a family, I'm mostly focused on the internet and the cities and interacting with this cultural nexus rather than doing the conservative action, which is you burrow yourself away into the rural life and you have kids and you raise them with strong morals and strong constitutions and discipline. and then they can have a bunch of kids, and then a certain percentage of your kids do go off and become priestly or mercantile or something, and they spread out into the urban abyss, as it were. They get lost. They go into the underworld of the urban environment, and they navigate that, and then maybe they come back and bring a boon for the community. So that's but right now I think when we're on the internet, we're purely on the internet. We don't have two sides of the same coin, or that's not a metaphor I should be using. Let me back it up a bit. When you look at Orthodox Jews, 90% of Orthodox Jews are just there to study Torah and have kids. 10% of them leave the community and become billionaire banksters and media moguls and transgender Orthodox kids. I'm not making that up. You can look it up. They become liberals and they become Reform Jews. And so there's sort of a 90% core of that community that is natal and that is reproductive. And then there's a 10% that splits off and becomes something completely different. That's been going on for a long time. That's been happening for hundreds of years. It's been happening for about 200 years in the Orthodox Jewish community. You first saw it with someone like Spinoza, and it accelerated through 1848 and continued to the present day. It's what we call assimilation, when Jews leave the Orthodox Jewish community and they enter the external world of the wider, broader nations, so to speak. The Amish do this to an extent, but I don't think as effectively. The Mormons do this to an extent. So this 90-10 rule, if you need 90% retention, natal community, and then 10% people who go off, they get wild, and they sort of interact with the broader world. They sort of lose their part of their identity. They lose some of their ethnocentrism, but they gain intelligence, they gain knowledge, they gain power that they can use to benefit that 90% of the core. When I look at something like nationalism, it's like 100% online, 100% exogamous, meaning exogamous means to marry outside of the group, psychologically exogamous, psychologically interacting with this urban nexus, and 0% actually in the real world, actually in communities. So I get people can dispute that and say, oh, there are tons of like rural nationalists, but they're living not necessarily next door, not necessarily as neighbors, not necessarily in a formalized structure like we see with the Mormons in Utah, where they have entirely Mormon communities, the Amish, entirely Amish communities, the Jews, entirely Orthodox Jewish communities. I don't think nationalists have something like that. And so I don't want to be a nationalist, because it looks like if you are a nationalist and you try to start your mini ethno-state, the government's going to destroy you. So I think that's a non-starter. I don't think that's even something that should be attempted. And so I think that's the point at which you say, okay, nationalism is too abrasive. It is too much of a red thumb. It is too much of a rebellious cry toward the government. And it's something that is just too, how do I say this? You're sending a signal. It's like when you get sick and you start coughing a lot and you get all these symptoms, you realize you're sick, you take some vitamin C, you take your orange juice, you take your chicken noodle soup, and you get better. Whereas a secret sickness is one where you have no symptoms and you just die one day. That's the more deadly sickness. And so essentially nationalism is like a disease with a lot of symptoms. Nationalism is a disease against the status quo that projects itself as being more important than it is, that inflates its own importance, that signals its radicalness, that signals how revolutionary and edgy it is. And this serves psychological functions, basically masculine psychology, the patricidal elements of the Indo-European mythos. Like, this has some self-serving aspects, but I don't think ultimately it's very strategic. What would Sun Tzu say? He would say, you should be like a thief in the night. You shouldn't project your power to your enemies. You should always make your enemies think you're weaker than you are. That's the opposite of what nationalists do. So I don't want to be on board that train, but I do think there is still a need for people to have groups, for people to have collectives, for people to have an investment in a community and in a future. And that really can't begin until we have that 90-10 ratio, until 90% of those people are actually in the real world, in a community, having families, having kids, building social capital, building financial capital, building real estate, like the Mormons do, like the Jews do, like the Amish do to an extent. but learning from the strengths and weaknesses of those groups and doing it. If you don't fit into those categories, if you're already a Jew, Mormon, or Amish, and you're living in those communities, you're having a great time right now, and you don't need my advice. But if you're not, and you're unwilling to join those communities, I think this is what needs to be done ultimately. For myself personally, am I actually going to succeed in that kind of parochial setting, off in the middle of who knows where, in the middle of rural America? Would I survive psychologically? I don't know, because I'm such an eccentric character. I like and identify with people like the book club for that reason. So I don't know that I am really suited to this, but I see the utility and the necessity of it, that at the end of the day, no matter how wild, crazy, and nomadic you are psychologically, if you're like me, you still need to have some kind of home lodestone that at the end of the day you can say, this is why I'm doing all this wild, crazy stuff, because at the end of the day, there is a home out there. And while I may be, what were the Vikings? The Vikings were people who wanted to leave their home, but they still had a sense of who they were. And so this Faustian spirit, this Viking spirit, the spirit that wants to leave home and go into the world, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but you need there to be a home that we can refer to, even if it's only mythological. We still have to have something, and biologically, you're going to need to have kids. So, I've talked for a long time about transhumanism, and the only way to break into that is by having capital. And if you're not rich, if you're not a billionaire or a millionaire, how do you amass capital to break into transhumanism? Then you need to collectivize your resources. You need to collectivize resources and tithe 10% of your money so that the leaders of your community can have access to these new transhumanist technologies that allow you to survive. What comes out on the other side, is that even something that's human or even recognizable as human? I'm not quite sure. But people are very skeptical of transhumanism, and so I say, okay, well, let's imagine the most mundane scenario. The most mundane scenario is what we already have. We already have technology that allows doctors to look at your genes and to look at your DNA and to say, you know what, if you marry this woman, here's the problems. If you marry this woman, here's the benefits. Here's the percentage of diseases. Here's the likelihood of a certain IQ. And so already genetic technology is allowing us to accelerate a process of selection that's been going on for thousands of years in humanity, if not, for all of time. And it's not natural selection, it's artificial selection. I have a problem with Faust when he talks about natural selection, because it's such a silly thing. Natural selection is not, that's like I've talked about it before, but it's so, like the phraseology of it, the naturalistic fallacy, the almost quasi-religious, like nature worship that it gets into. No, natural selection is not what's important. It's artificial selection that's important. And that's really what we should be focused on. So I can't say what the future will be. And maybe all of this is irrelevant. It's a LARP. It won't go anywhere. But it's like, what's the alternative? The alternative is being a defeatist and saying nothing will work and nothing is possible and there's no reason to even try anything. We should just laugh at memes on the internet. And while that is fun in the temporary sense, I think you do lie in bed at night thinking about your eventual mortality, your eventual death. You're asking, did I even have any kids? Did I leave anything to my progeny? Did I do anything impactful? Was my life meaningful? What was I put on this earth for? Why did God create me? Why did I end up here? You ask yourself these questions. I don't think memes are enough. I think even if all of this is a big fail from the beginning, you at least have to try. And if people want to engage with me and argue with me in a serious way on some of these points, we can do that. You are allowed to disagree with me. But, otherwise it's like, and I guess people can criticize me for not necessarily taking my own advice in this respect, and that's fine, but it doesn't make it less true for what it is, whether or not I follow the advice or not. There's a lot of, I guess the truth is very harsh when you measure your own life up against the truth of what you should be doing. Sometimes the judgment, when you eat that apple, the knowledge of good and evil, and you realize, wow, like there's like this ideal that I should be reaching, and I'm all the way down here. I'm like in the negative. And sometimes that's so harsh and hellish, and the self-condemnation that we feel is so great that we'd rather distract ourselves by further going into the negative and just embracing our own sense of inadequacy as a funny meme. And that's one way to cope with it. That's, you know, the apathetic personality and apathetic pattern of thinking helps alleviate the pain of realizing that, wow, like we are so far and we're so distant from what even a reasonable goal of how to live our lives would be. And I don't know if I'm alone in that thinking or if there are other people who agree with me or feel the same way, but you know, often despair takes the form of laughter rather than crying, and despair takes the form of distractions and apathies. And like you can keep going in that direction, but it doesn't prevent, again, that repetitive nightly examination, self-examination, where you realize at some level when you're half conscious, where you're about to fall asleep, like, I'm not really doing anything with my life, and this is a problem. And then you fall asleep and you wake up the next morning and do all the same things. But, you know, if reincarnation is true, or even if it's not, there is a sort of reincarnation of the sleeping and the waking cycle. You know, it's like a Groundhog Day with Bill Murray. Like, you live your life in a mundane, unimportant way. You fall asleep, you wake up, you do the same thing over again. It's like, when are you going to stop doing that and start pushing yourself out of your comfort zone and start confronting things that are difficult? Because if you're not going to do that, then maybe it's not just that you're going to die someday and it's all over, but you're going to die and you're going to repeat this cycle of feeling worthless and memeing and being apathetic and depressed. So maybe the solution to depression is you have to put yourself outside your comfort zone and confront real challenges, and to have the discipline to do that, because it is difficult. And even if you say, okay, I agree with what's being said here, that's not like just agreeing mentally with the words that I'm saying is not necessarily going to transfer into real life action if you're going to change your life. Maybe the coronavirus is a hidden gift in the sense that during this self-quarantine, people can self-reflect and they can ask themselves how they really want to live their lives, and they can start, you know, for me, I think I'm someone who's very externally motivated. I'm motivated by other people, what other people think of me, how other people perceive me, what other people want me to do. That's how I'm motivated, whether I like to admit it or not. And so by being in a self-quarantine situation, voluntary or involuntary, it does give you an opportunity to kind of train the way in which you motivate yourself, and you're self-disciplined. So these are interesting things to think about. Let's get back to the chat. So you've been saying, Aardvark, you've been crying to everyone about it. Remember that time me and Imperius were duking it out and you got involved proving you're a fraud? I don't understand why Cromwell is fighting with Arvel over Imperius, because I think they are both not fans of Imperius. So I don't know what's going on. Cromwell seems to think he is more important than he actually is. By the way, I expect everyone to give Aardvark a hard time. I'll start rating his videos soon and snatching all his followers. Nobody be kind to him. That's a directive. He's a phony. Yes, we are your personal army, right? That dude has a pretty sweet helmet. Yeah, we've been talking about helmets today. Why, yes, I send death threats to niche fringe political YouTubers. How could you tell? Who is Cromwell? For me, it's Discord. Circling back to the Castle of Otranto. Yeah, it was a long circuitous journey. Cromwell says, my tactics worked, though, haven't they? I've been harassing the neo-absolutists and perennialists for a long time because it's fair game. Cromwell equals Forkbeard/Shamgar. Hashtag clear-pilled. Fourth Density is, I forget your Twitter username, but Fourth Density made some funny memes. You know, before, some people had made a meme of me where it looked like I was encouraging some kind of misogyny, which I didn't really appreciate. But I was like, it's hard for me to say no. It's hard for me to be like, you need to take this down, because usually when you push people like that, they sort of push back. And so I'm like, hey man, you do what you do. I am who I am. If people want to make a meme of me, which casts a negative light on me, what can I do? But I thought Fourth Density made some funny memes on Twitter. I don't remember what it's like WikiLeaks XXX, I think is his. But it's WikiLeaks, it's just WikiLeak without a WikiLeak XXX, yeah. By the way, Cromwell says, I thought closing the borders was impossible. Did I say closing the borders was impossible? What I said is that the long arc of history is not pointing toward a closed border system. The long arc of history is pointing toward open borders. So it's not impossible to have a temporary closure of borders, but that doesn't necessarily disrupt the overall incentive structure that has led to mass immigration. So you're not actually addressing the fundamental incentives of the ruling class that have led to these policies when you have a temporary quarantine or a temporary pandemic or a temporary closing of the borders. Cromwell says, suddenly we have a global pandemic, and it is, to all the naysayers of nationalism, when the going gets tough, the nation states will revert. What about the city-state? Are we going to see a return to the city-state? What about tribalism? What about Ted Kaczynski living in the woods? What about the destruction of technology, if we want to go with that? Red Ogre says, if he likes historical armament and weapons as much as I do, maybe he isn't so bad. Cromwell, not only is it a vindication of nationalism, but also a vindication of populism. These elites are just as vulnerable as the rest of us, and a more collective effort within states is necessary. I don't think that's true. I think that if you have a lot of money, you have access to doctors more than the average person. I think if you have a lot of money, you can have your own private island. I think if you have a lot of money, you can self-quarantine more effectively. I think if you have a lot of money, you probably have a panic room. I think if you have a lot of money, you probably have a lot of not just canned food, but like delicious food stores for like 10 years. I think if you have a lot of money, you probably have a boat you can hop on and self-quarantine in the middle of the ocean. So I think when you say the elites are just vulnerable as the rest of us, that's just objectively false. Big Male says, dang, the Turks are invading southern Italy. Let's just close the borders. Yeah, well, there's something, I don't know exactly what you mean by that, but there might be something to that. Cromwell says, one day Kenneth will finally believe me, all of you will believe me, and then I'll be there with my sunglasses on to say, I told you so. Fourth Density says, a virus vindicates my ism, how could you tell? This meme template, I don't even know what this template is. Cromwell says, by the way, when me and Aardvark meet, I'm going to wear a pair of sunglasses, some army gear, and a Peer Academy sticker. Cromwell, you're too afraid to even come on the channel, so I don't know you're actually going to be flying over the ocean and meeting anybody. Let's see. Oh, Cromwell collects knives. He's a knife collector. Every knife... I've never gotten along with anybody who collected knives, just as a general rule. Cromwell says, by the way, Aardvark has met me a dozen times, and each time he pretends to not know who I am, despite the fact that he chases me down major obsession. You keep changing your username, but you expect people to know who you are. He is replacing Mr. Coolmug as the most dedicated. Well, Mr. Coolmug still leaves the comments. If you read the comments, not the live chat, but the comments on the videos, Mr. Coolmug is still up there in terms of being the main commenter. But Cromwell, he's really taking over the live chat here. Forest Density says, I'm being gang stalked by zoglings. Read old books, bro. Old books are okay. I don't think we should necessarily associate the two. Cromwell says, no one has forgotten that you were Doolittle's star killer, Aardvark. What does that mean? Nobody has forgotten your atrocious debate with Jay Dyer where you talked about Christ as an avatar. Yeah, I don't think that debate was effective because it was just like Jay Dyer being like, but if you don't believe the Bible is literally true, then you're going to be gay. And then Arvel was like, but that's like you're making a very pragmatic argument. Can we like talk about metaphysics? And Jay Dyer was just like, you're gay, you're a Satanist, you're gay. I was a perennialist. I've already mastered that system. However, I can't like make a metaphysical argument. I'm just going to like basically ad hominem, basically just like, well, your ideology leads to gay sex and therefore it's wrong. Okay, all right. That was not a very interesting debate to me. Cromwell says, after I've humiliated Aardvark, after you've humbled yourself, I will welcome you to my little hut, offer you mercy as you bow before my feet. Cromwell doesn't really have any points. He just sort of says the same thing over and over again. Arvel says, my debate with Jay wasn't all that bad considering his greater age and experience with debate. Yeah, I guess Jay had the better rhetoric of just like attacking his opponent. Arvel was actually like trying to discuss ideas. Also, his mic levels were way higher. Whenever we both talked, he came through, not me. Yeah. SHEESH Man was a famous Zionist. Maybe he was. I don't know about SHEESH Man the Zionist. Maybe that's there's a lot of SHEESH Mans out there. Bulgarians, Greco-Thracians named after Turks who spoke a Slavic language. Yeah, something like that. You're catching on. Arvel says, I was skeptical of Doolittle. Peter Problo says, just realized Ken sold out to the Saturn Cube cult. Yeah, that's true. I don't know what Force Density is saying. Force Density is having fun, though. He's entertaining himself. There exists an independent moral order. What does that mean? Are you just talking about objective morality? An independent moral order. No surprise the world religions have much in common. Perennialists are just reactionary numpties for the most part. Don't know what a numpty is, but I think it sounds like you just embraced perennialism while like denying the label. The SHEESH Mans were Cumans. SHEESH Man, they were yeah, I don't know. We're gonna have to work on these jokes, but you're getting there. Cromwell says, not even worth my time. Don't ever call Christ a mere avatar again. Oh, okay, so Cromwell is like offended by perennialism from a Christian perspective. Twin Peaks in the tradition, Gothic soap opera. Jay Dyer ran from a debate with me. That's funny because you are literally nobody. If we go to Cromwell's channel, is he even going to have one subscriber? I think I'm subscribed to Cromwell. But the idea that Jay Dyer, an e-celeb, has time to debate with every schizophrenic who wanders into their live chat is a bit narcissistic and grandiose. Arvel says an avatar is an incarnation of one aspect of the Trinitarian Godhead of Hinduism, basically identical to the idea of the incarnation of the sun. Svankmajer is fantastic. I haven't seen Svankmajer. You are an unknown. Why would he debate with some anonymous live chatter? Avatar, The Last Airbender is a kid's cartoon. Oh, man. You know, maybe a Cromwell versus Jay Dyer debate would be good because all they really both have is rhetoric at the end of the day. Like, Jay Dyer just has rhetoric where he just sort of beats people over the head by calling them gay and he takes his Bible and he smashes them in the face, you know, and that's the end of it. It's like, oh, biblical literalism? Smash in the face. You are gay. And that's it. No further discussion. I have a following outside of YouTube. Okay. Yeah, Cromwell, where's your following? Do you have your own cult? I never got a YouTube audience because I consider it a net negative. YouTube fanboys are disloyal. So Cromwell, he thinks it is a waste of his time to gain a YouTube audience, but he thinks it's a good use of his time to engage with my audience. Peter says, Jim Jarmusch Deadman, if you haven't seen it, it's good, slightly gothic western. My YouTuber body count exceeds human limitations. What does this have to do? I just don't know what fourth density is talking about at this point. Where's your army, Cromwell? And you can go back to Jay Dyer's video collection where he runs from a debate with Hengist. I've used many aliases, but the fringe YouTubers know who I am. Well, he is literally the fringe of the fringe, the fringiest. It's not just edginess, it's fringiness is really what we're going for. Avatar the movie. I don't need to show you my army. Cromwell, where's your proof? I don't need to show you my proof. I'm just going to talk about it, but I'm not going to show you any evidence. I don't need to show you the evidence, but I will talk about the evidence. I'm charismatic enough, so I expect that you already take my word for it. Oh my goodness. If you actually read the book all on sub, read what book? The Edgar Allan Poe? It's not a book. It's like, it's not an essay. It's not a poem. It's a short story. It's not a, if you unsub Menthol Gold, that's your choice. Reminder that Nemesis by Chris Bond is free in ebook form on publisher page. Ken is out of his mind, disrespecting the Corman Hammer film aesthetics. I'm just not a fan of the 1960s aesthetics. Let's scroll up here. Ooh, we've definitely had some chat going on. That film is great. Great. You should play it on your channel with your commentary. I don't think I can do that. If there are some copyright-free movies out there, I could watch those. But I've watched some old, like, German films prior to the 1945. I think are copyright-free. So I've watched a few of those. But I don't know. We'll see. That's your problem, Aardvark. How does it make you feel that I was on Peer Academy from the beginning and knew that I was going to contribute nothing to your project? This is like, that was a great troll, bro, how you were there and you didn't do anything. Poe was a cousin respecter. Why were you there if you weren't going to contribute? Makes me feel confused. Because I'm a living personification of wrath. I'm not even human. I'm a whirlwind of emotions. I think that's the most honest thing Cromwell has said all day. Mainstream Western media blaming communism and China for doing sporadic testing and little action. I feel like we're never going to get to Poe. Well, we will at the end of the live chat. We will someday. Maybe in the 3rd episode. We'll see. How long have we been going? What's the time on here? Hour 30. That's because you're my man, Kenneth. I genuinely like you and believe we will be buddies in the future. You further distance yourself from the Peer Academy dudes. You're an honorary Englishman. I love he's like, I'm gonna create a schism here. I'm gonna destroy Arvel by distancing him from Peer Academy. Yeah, I did leave Peer Academy. Everyone can see the video and understand the reasons. I was trying to focus on my channel. But now with coronavirus, I don't really have that excuse, right? Now with coronavirus, I have all the time in the world, so we'll see. You're an honorary Englishman. What's the whole project about? It's about the idea of the warrior, anti-mercantilism, anti-clericalism. That's the cure. I have the antidote. Yeah, I don't know if I'm on board with that. The antidote is stored in the balls. Why, yes, I destroy YouTubers in the realm of ideas every day by just hitting buttons on my Bloomberg terminal under the influence of my own enlightened intelligence. Have faith in me. I have angels on my side. Trump really did win. I'm currently being gang-stalked, bro. This is why populism will win. For me, it's... I don't know if I can read, like, everything that fourth density says is like a meme. It's like fourth density doesn't exist outside of memes. I wonder what it would be like to meet fourth density in real life, or just see his face, to hear his voice. I'm curious. Machiavelli believed in the people. Why don't you? I think that's the opposite. I don't think Machiavelli believed in the people. I'm not sure you've read Machiavelli. Or even read the Spark Notes or the Cliff Notes. I don't think you know who Machiavelli is if you think Machiavelli believed in the people. It's very strange. Refrigerated onions are good. We're not going to build a new religious cult. We're going to build a militaristic brotherhood, a proletarian elite. Okay. Have fun. I disagree. I think religion is important. I think... the nature of warfare is changing. And I think a proletarian elite is by its nature self-contradictory and impossible. Paradoxical, oxymoronic. My religion is the temporal, conquer is my spirit. Is Cromwell, I think he's like the Christian version of Bronze Age pervert. I think that's who he is. You don't really believe in the Zogling theory about germ transmission, do you, Anon? Your mimetic humors are simply out of balance. Some of the people in the live chat, they just keep going. They just keep going and going. Fourth Density, he's just over there in one corner. He's just making memes. Cromwell in another corner. He's just like... he's doing his own memes. You got to be fighting your battles in the cities. That's the USA. Nationalism is not an internet phenomenon in Europe. Yeah, that's probably more true for Europe. But Europe has some economic issues. Europe has some geopolitical issues. Right now, Europe's not sovereign. So I don't know how Europe's going to get out of that. We'll see with Europe. We'll see what happens. See, my problem isn't when you say this term, when you say nationalism is not an internet phenomenon, like we're constantly confusing this term nationalism with ethnocentrism, and I think they're two different things. And people can say I'm splitting hairs here, but it's really, there's a confusion of semantics that's intentional, that nationalists create this confusion in order to inflate their importance. But I think ethnocentrism will play a role in the future, yes. In my nationality, all women will have to procreate with me. Big Male's doing his own. Everyone in the chat, it's a very... we have all these personalities in the chat who are kind of like looking in the mirror and talking to themselves. Nobody's talking to me. No one's addressing the points that I'm making, which is not what I want, but that's what it is. A warrior spirit thrives off restless young men. That's what it depends on. Fed rates cut to 0%. Abrasive is my middle name. Why, yes, I'm a bit of a quirky character. Look, I ain't some conservative. I'm a dynamist. I don't care about your private property rights. I'm an adventurer, a horse rider. I'm not hidden in some rural backwater. I'm here. I'm alive. It's funny. It's a self-parody. It is very funny. I don't really understand how Ken manages to talk for this long. Because I don't know. I just do. For me, it's eating that part. What does that have to do with the middle class? Oh man. How does this happen? How does this happen? How do you live in memes? How do you do that, fourth density? I don't understand this. How does one achieve this? I want to understand the mindset. Put yourself outside your comfort zone. Confront Corona head on. I don't know if I'm advocating for that. Yeah, hashtag warrior. Penthouse is better than rural shed. There's something to that. WikiLeak. Why, yes, I make my favorite YouTube laugh. It's called Comic Pessimism. Read Logo Daedalus. I've never read Logo Daedalus. But, yeah, it's very confusing. The live chat's very confusing today. You don't believe in the Bible, LOL, Jay Dyer. Half my comments are invisible. That's right. Half the comments are invisible. Can say now say Problo. But there's an O in your name. It's Probloe, and you keep changing. Then say Gavin McInnes. But I've heard it Gavin McKines. And that sounds more Scottish to me. Stating there's an independent moral order has nothing to do with perennialism. You ever heard of the Euthyphro dilemma, broski? No, I don't. What is the... maybe I'm just pronouncing it badly. Euthyphro? The Euthyphro dilemma. Is it pious? Is the pious loved by the gods because it is pious, or is it pious because it's loved by the gods? Yeah, that's an interesting dilemma. Yeah, there's some kind of cyclical thing going on there. Ken is ESL secretly. What does that mean, ESL? American Sign Language? How am I secretly American Sign Language? I was part of Jay Dyer's little Discord group and we're having a debate and he ran. Okay. I'm sure you were a very important person in Jay Dyer's life. No, not my national, or how do I even say this word? National is Marino. Ah, you can't just not care about the nation state Reno. Why is gay a censored word? Because I don't want to be saying gay all the time. Correct. I think you and your audience is fair game. Cromwell. Okay, got to scroll up here. Cromwell, you make so many good points. Would like to abandon Ken and become your devotee. Yeah, I'm losing Randy here. Randy, he does go to the gym. So Randy and Cromwell are probably going to make an alliance. Can I get a Discord link? Sure. Sure, FBI. I'd be happy to welcome the FBI into my Discord. I mean, the actual FBI, I think, can enter Discord without needing to have an FBI avatar. So it's ironic, right? The FBI would never actually, like, create an account where they call themselves the FBI, right? Because irony, like, the FBI is not capable of irony. So therefore, he's actually definitely not part of the FBI. But that's what the FBI wants me to think. The FBI has already gone through my thought process. They already know. They already know what I think and what I believe. So this is, I mean, the psyops are just multi-layered here. The Schrodinger's FBI agent is everywhere at all times. My entire abode is just covered in a thick layer of aluminum foil right now. Do not do this, Randy, my disciple. Ken is my Saint Peter. Believe in him even when he doesn't believe in himself. Never mind me. Okay, that's kind of deflating your task, your quest there. The Chad Cromwell versus the Virgin Ken. Yes, the Chad Cromwell doesn't show his face, doesn't have a YouTube channel, doesn't have a following, talks a big game. That is the Chad Cromwell. Cromwell cranks up the Daft Punk to drown out the sound of him screaming at the computer. Ken uses extra virgin olive oil. Haha. Why does Cromwell dislike Arvel? I don't know. Cromwell is Pink Wojak in the Justice Band t-shirt. Your favorite gang stalkers. I think fourth density is cool. I come here for Cromwell, not gonna lie. He's an important part of the show right now. Cromwell, I'm gonna make the lower class the upper class. I mean, if there is a means of usurping power, please tell me how. Or are you gonna try and help them get there because you believe it's deserved? Trust his plan. What up? But why? He thinks their vision is better. But what and how does he think he will do you help? I can't read this sentence. Scrolling back up. Warrior Nationalist, Logo Datalist likes the word flotsam. I don't know who that is. Machiavelli, a people is more prudent, more stable, and of better judgment than a prince. Interesting. Also, it's suspected that Machiavelli was writing a satire. So I don't know if that's to be taken literally. But, okay, interesting, Machiavelli, interesting. The democratic ideology of Machiavelli is something we're learning about here. He's even quoting this. Let's Google search it just to make sure. Wow, Machiavelli really said this? Let's read the context, shall we? Let's take a look at the context. Let's bring up the, here's how we'll do it. We will port it into here, okay? So, chapter 58 of Titus Livius of Niccolo Machiavelli. All right. These words are not very big. How do I make these words big? How do I do this? Well, I can always paste it into something, right? Let's see. What if I use Sometimes you can use like a... I'm trying to think. Do I have Notepad? I don't think that's what I want. Text. How about text edit? Text edit. Notepad. Let's take all of this and let's copy it. And then let's paste it into text edit. And then let's make it like this. And then let's add a window capture called text edit. Where is text edit? Text edit untitled. Boom. Bam. Here we go. And then we'll push this up here. That a people is wiser and more constant than a prince. That nothing is more... Oh, we got to make sure everything is in here. That nothing is more fickle and inconstant than the multitude is affirmed not by Titus Livius only, but by all other historians, in whose chronicles of human actions we often find the multitude condemning some citizen to death. So already the first clause of the first sentence, he's affirming nothing is more fickle and inconstant than the multitude, which seems to be in contradiction with the title that a people is wiser and more constant than a prince. I think the point that Machiavelli is making that you took out of context here is that Machiavelli is saying that a prince is not constant. A prince is someone who is, and I'm going to take a look because Brian G is trying to become a rule respecter. So let me see if he did the correct. Nope, he didn't follow the instructions, so I can't make it. It's physically impossible, Brian, for me to make you a rule respecter because you did not post here to respect. So I apologize. Like, Discord doesn't allow me to do that. So Georgie Boy is also trying to do that, and again, he has yet to actually post in the correct category. You just got to be able to follow the instructions, guys, because I can't override how Discord works. But Cromwell's saying, a people is more prudent, more stable, and of better judgment than a prince. But that's a rhetorical flourish he's using to attack princes and to explain why princes need to listen to him. Because if you read the first sentence, that nothing is more fickle and inconstant than the multitude, that's, basically saying the multitude is inconstant and fickle, but the prince even more so. Affirmed by Titus Livius, Chronicles of Human Actions, we often find the multitude condemning some citizen to death and afterwards lamenting him and grieving greatly for his loss, as the Romans grieved and lamented for Manlius Capitolinus, whom they had themselves condemned to die, in relating which circumstances our author observes, in a short time, the people, having no longer cause to fear him, began to deplore his death. And elsewhere, I'm trying to think of the guy, SHEESH man. And elsewhere, when speaking of what took place in Syracuse after the murder of Hieronymus, grandson of Hero, he says, it is the nature of the multitude to be an abject slave or a domineering master. It may be that in attempting to defend a cause which, as I have said, all writers are agreed to condemn, I take upon me a task so hard and difficult that I shall either have to relinquish it with shame or pursue it with opprobrium. Be that as it may, I neither do nor ever shall judge it a fault to support opinion by arguments where it is not sought to impose them by violence or authority. I maintain then that this infirmity, which with historians tax the multitude, may with equal reason be charged against every individual man, but most of all against princes, since all who are not controlled by the laws, who commit the very same faults as are committed by an uncontrolled multitude. So he is saying that the masses are terrible rulers, but so are princes, because princes can just do whatever they want. Proof whereof were easy, since all, and of course my solution to this is not nationalism, it's not to give power to the masses, it's also not despotism, which gives power to the princes, but it's a class structure where the merchants are in the guilds and the priests are in the church and the warriors are in the army, and you have these institutions and structures that create laws that prevent the corruption of princes as well as the corruption of the multitude. So that's my tripartite solution to the Machiavelli's problem. Proof whereof were easy, since of all the many princes existing, or who have existed, few indeed are or have been either wise or good. Let me see if I can increase the reading size because it's hard to read this. That might be too big. This may be too large. All right. But I need to change the font size because that's way too big. How about now? Still too big? Gotta shrink this down. Whoop. Shrink it, shrink it. Whoa, it just disappeared. Where did it go? Is it window capture? Defaults. Okay. All right, delete that. Bring back window capture. Text. Text edit. Okay, here we go. So now we're gonna make it a little bit wider. And we're gonna make the font a little bit smaller. Okay. Now we got something that we can work with. Let's see, is that gonna work for our purposes? Scroll it a bit up a little bit. Move myself over slightly. And probably make it a little bit smaller. And make it a little bit smaller. All right, I think this is good. All right, scrolling. All right, we're talking about Sparta. We're talking about the multitude. Did it crack my neck? Crack everything. We're all cracked. Okay, the princes are not controlled by laws. Commit the very same faults as are committed by an uncontrolled multitude. It's very, I don't know if this is libertarianism, but it's kind of like, it sounds like libertarianism. It sounds like anti-statism. It sounds like when people are like, the government is corrupt and the masses and the free market should decide. That's what it sounds like what he's saying. How old is Machiavelli? Machiavelli, is he 15th century? No, he's 16th century. Wrote it in 1513. Yeah, he sounds like an early libertarian. Proof whereof were easy, since of all the many princes existing or who have existed, few indeed are or have been either good or wise or good. I speak of such princes as have had it in their power to break the reins by which they are controlled, among whom I do not reckon those kings who reigned in Egypt in the most remote antiquity when that country was governed in conformity with its laws, nor do I include those kings who reigned in Sparta, nor those who in our own times reign in France, which kingdom, more than any other whereof we have knowledge at the present day, is under the government of its laws. For kings who live as these do, subject to constitutional restraint, are not to be counted when we have to consider each man's proper nature and to see whether he resembles the multitude. For to draw a comparison with such princes as these, we must take the case of a multitude controlled as they are and regulated by the laws, when we shall find it to possess the same virtues which we see in them, and neither conducting itself as an abject slave, nor as a domineering master. Such was the people of Rome, while the commonwealth continued uncorrupted, never either served abjectly nor domineered haughtily, but on the contrary, by means of their magistrates and their ordinances, maintained their place, and when forced to put forth their strength against some powerful citizen, as in the case of Manlius, the decemvirs, that means the 10 men, I guess, decemvirs. Let's bring this over here. And others who sought to oppress them did so, but when it was necessary for the public welfare to yield obedience to the dictator or consuls, obeyed. And if the Roman people mourned the loss of the dead Manlius, it is no wonder, for they mourned his virtues, which had been of such a sort that their memory stirred the regret of all, and would have had the power to produce the same feelings even in a prince, all writers being agreed that excellence is praised and admired even by its enemies. But if Manlius, when he was so greatly mourned, could have risen once more from the dead, the Roman people would have pronounced the same sentence against him which they pronounced when they led him forth from the prison house, and straightway condemned him to die. And in the like manner we see that princes, accounted wise, have put men to death, and afterwards greatly lamented them, as Alexander mourned for Clitus and others of his friends, and for Herod of Mariamne. But what our historian says of the multitude, he says not of a multitude which, like the people of Rome, is controlled by the laws, but of an uncontrolled multitude, like the Syracusans, who were guilty of all these crimes which infuriated and ungoverned men commit, and which were equally committed by Alexander and Herod in the cases mentioned. Wherefore the nature of a multitude is no more to be blamed than the nature of princes, since both equally err when they can do so without regard to the consequences. So this is, I guess, the way I interpret this is, morality is dependent upon consequences. And so when the people are freed of consequences, they act quite terribly. When princes are freed of consequences, they act quite terribly. It's only when we have institutions that enforce consequences through laws, through a guild system, through a church system, or through a military system, that's the only time we can get moral behavior, because only institutions are capable of enforcing consequences prior to a disaster. Now, if we dissolve the institutions, then essentially we have to wait till the disaster comes. But if we have police in the streets, and we have church canon, and we have a guild of merchants, then we can enforce consequences prior to reaching the disaster of our poor morality. I don't think this is an argument for nationalism. I think it's an argument for institutionalism, which is something different entirely. Of which many instances besides those already given might be cited from the history of the Roman emperors, and of other princes and tyrants in whose lives we find such inconstancy and fickleness as we might look in vain for in a people. I maintain, therefore, contrary to the common opinion which avers that a people, when they have the management of affairs, are changeable, fickle, and ungrateful, that these faults exist not in them otherwise than as they exist in individual princes, so that were any to accuse both princes and peoples, the charge might be true, but that to make exception in favor of princes is a mistake, for a people in command, if it be duly restrained, will have the same prudence and the same gratitude as a prince has, or even more, however wise he may be reckoned. And a prince, on the other hand, if freed from the control of the laws, will be more ungrateful, fickle, and short-sighted than a people. So the question here is, what does Machiavelli mean when he uses this term people? The Greek, of course, is demos. I'm not sure what the Italian is. Maybe if Farino comes in, he can tell us. I would love Farino to do some Machiavelli. But when we talk about the people, who do we mean? Because when 200 years or 300 years approximately after Machiavelli, the American Constitution is written, when the founding fathers talk about the people of the United States, they're not talking about the people in the sense we use that term today to mean the 90% of the populace. The people is often used not to refer to the majority of the living human beings in a space, but the people is used to refer usually to the educated class, the landowning class. And that is something very different entirely from democracy. So we have to make that distinction there. The middle class, a middle class structure is reliant upon a distribution of power that requires really strong institutions that develop because of certain incentive structures. So I think it's important to look at the incentives that have led to the destruction of the middle class, that have led to the destruction of constitutionalism and republicanism, and this high-low versus the middle of democracy that we have today. We have to understand the incentives that went into that, the changing incentive structures. I think they have to do with the economy and with religion, philosophy, techniques, things like that. I don't think Cromwell is a big philosopher, though. Further, I say that any difference in their methods of acting results not from any difference in their nature, that being the same in both, or if there be advantage on either side, the advantage resting with the people, but from their having more or less respect for the laws under which each lives. And whosoever attentively considers the history of the Roman people may see that for 400 years they never relaxed in their hatred of the regal name, and were constantly devoted to the glory and welfare of their country, and will find numberless proofs given by them of their consistency in both particulars. And should any allege against me the ingratitude they showed to Scipio, I reply by what has already been said at length on that head, where I prove that peoples are less ungrateful than princes. But as for prudence and stability of purpose, I affirm that a people is more prudent, more stable, and of better judgment than a prince. Nor is it without reason that the voice of the people has been likened to the voice of God. For we see that widespread beliefs fulfill themselves and bring about marvelous results, so as to have the appearance of presaging by some occult quality either weal or woe. What the heck does weal or woe mean? I've never seen this phrase before. Weal and woe. Refers to the good and bad times, the weal and the woe. Is weal related to the word wealth? Let's find out. Wealth. Well, I'm not sure about that. How about weal? Weal comes from wella, which is related to wealth, so I was correct. Weal and woe. Where does woe come from? Woe comes from why, which is like a cry. Oh, woe. Again, as to the justice of their opinions on public affairs. Okay. Magdala says respect, so now I can make him a rule respecter. Georgie boy can be a rule respecter. I don't know who Mr. Anderson is. He didn't PM me. So, unfortunately, he cannot become a rule respecter. Again, as to the justice of their opinions on public affairs, seldom find that after hearing two speakers of equal ability urging them in opposite directions, they do not adopt the sounder view or are unable to decide on the truth of what they hear. And if, as I have said, a people errs in adopting courses which appear to it bold and advantageous, princes will likewise err when their passions are touched, as is far oftener the case with them than with the people. We see, too, that in the choice of magistrates, a people will choose far more honestly than a prince, so that while you shall never persuade a people that it is advantageous to confer dignities on the infamous and the profligate, a prince may readily and in 1,000 ways be drawn to do so. Again, it may be seen that a people, when once they have come to hold a thing in abhorrence, remain for many ages of the same mind, which we do not find happen with princes. For the truth of both of which assertions, the Roman people are my sufficient witness, who in the course of many hundred years and in so many elections of consuls and tribunes never made 4 appointments of which they had reason to repent, and as I have said, so detested the name of king, that no obligation they might be under to any citizen who affected that name could shield him from the appointed penalty. Further, we find that those cities wherein the government is in the hands of the people, in a very short space of time, make marvelous progress, far exceeding that made by cities which have been always ruled by princes, as Rome grew after the expulsion of her kings, and Athens after she freed herself from Pisistratus, and this we can ascribe to no other cause than that the rule of a people is better than the rule of a prince. Nor would I have thought that anything our historian may have affirmed in the passage cited or elsewhere controverts these my opinions. For if all the glories and all the defects both of peoples and of princes be carefully weighed, it will appear that both for goodness and for glory a people is to be preferred. And if princes surpass peoples in the work of legislation, in shaping civil institutions, in molding statutes, and framing new ordinances, so far do the latter surpass the former in maintaining what has been established as to merit no less praise than they. And to state the sum of the whole matter shortly, I say that popular governments have endured for long periods in the same way as the governments of princes, and that both have need to be regulated by the laws, because the prince who can do what he pleases is a madman, and the people which can do as it pleases is never wise. If then we assume the case of a prince bound, and of a people chained down by the laws, greater virtue will appear in the people than in the prince, while if we assume the case of each of them freed from all control, it will be seen that the people commits fewer errors than the prince, and less serious errors, and such as admit of readier cure. For a turbulent and unruly people may be spoken to by a good man, and readily brought back to good ways, but none can speak to a wicked prince, nor any remedy be found against him, but by the sword. And from this we may infer which of the two suffers from the worst disease, for if the disease of the people may be healed by words, while that of the prince must be dealt with by the sword, there is none but will judge that evil to be the greater, which demands the more violent remedy. When a people is absolutely uncontrolled, it is not so much the fault. Well, let me stop right there and address something that I think McDowell has now posted twice. McDowell, you're good to go. When we understand the context of violence, these princes, when you live in a violent, warfare-ridden Europe, it makes sense to have princes. When violence decreases and you start to get pacifistic modes of government that are brought on by the merchant class, that is when princes become untenable, in a sense. The warrior prince gives way to the merchant prince. I think you have to look at it as a class structure. Have we moved away from princes? I'm not sure we have. I think we've moved away from warrior princes toward merchant princes. When a people is absolutely uncontrolled, it is not so much the follies which it commits or the evil which it actually does that excites alarm, as the mischief which may thence result, since in such disorders it becomes possible for a tyrant to spring up. But with a wicked prince, the contrary is the case, for we dread present ill and place our hopes in the future, persuading ourselves that the evil life of the prince may bring about our freedom. So that there is this distinction between the two, that with the one we fear what is, with the other what is likely to be. Again, the cruelties of a people are turned against him, who it fears will encroach upon the common rights, but the cruelties of the prince against those who he fears may assert those rights. The prejudice which is entertained against the people arises from this, that any man may speak ill of them openly and fearlessly, even when the government is in their hands, whereas princes are always spoken of with 1,000 reserves and a constant eye to the consequences. But since the subject suggests it, it seems to me not out of place to consider what alliances we can most trust, whether those made with commonwealths or those made with princes. So that is a little diversion there, a little Machiavelli for you. So now we can delete this window capture, and we can bring back Poe, who is this window capture, and delete that. So we're back here, and we got to make this big. We got to make it small, and we got to space it out. I don't know if this is readable. Maybe this is what we should do. Maybe, oh, it says print version. Let's take all this. If I do this, is it gonna, no, it's not gonna resize. Oh, is it gonna resize? No, it's not gonna resize. Yeah, let's take all this and let's put it into a text edit so that we can get the proportions right so that I can have the text show up correctly. Oh, here we have all kinds of vocabulary words. Avatar. Where's my text edit at? Text edit. Thank you, sir. I'm gonna need you again. Too bad that I did not save my settings last time, but let's take that out and add the text edit again. Window capture, text edit is going to be down at the bottom. Okay, so we've got this. Blow it up, make it like this. Spread it out so that it fits. And then move it up so that it's just the text. And then bring it down. Bring it down a bit so that it's Avatar. I don't want spell check, please. How do I stop spelling? I don't want you to check my spelling. Spelling and grammar, don't correct the spelling either. It's underlining certain words. Well, that is the Mask of the Red Death. Let's see if we can get to it. The data about declining churchmanship is seemingly random and hard to make sense of. Both trad cathedrals and low church parishes have some growth and some decline. Yeah, it implies that maybe we're going into something beyond traditional religions. I don't know where we're going to go with that. But just if you look at birth rates, Orthodox Jews have a lot of kids. So it's not about converting people. It's just about showing up. It's just the fact that even if the church declines, still the church members have more children than everybody else. So they're going to survive. So you have to look at it in relative terms. Yes, the churches are declining, but relative to what? Relative to the rest of the population, they're actually growing in their proportion. Why should I trust Machiavelli? Cromwell, you have no choices. Machiavelli just bummed he isn't a prince. ESL, American Sign Language. I posted a Discord link. I got to scroll back up. Where's the top of the chat? Here we are. Machiavelli is most understood. He believed the people would create a more effective government, but that an absolute monarch was desirable in his day under a specific timeline to unite Italy. Okay. All right, we're learning about Machiavelli. The people, again, this definition of the people is a dicey one that I'm not sure we agree on what Machiavelli means by the people. I'm not sure I agree with Machiavelli's history of the Roman people either, depending on what he means by the people. If he means the aristocracy, that's one thing. Internet nationalism is self-refuting. What does this have to do with you open? Okay. Anyway, Machiavelli was a Democrat like Jefferson. Cromwell, do you think individuals know what's best for themselves and for society? Bidenism is incipient Machiavellianism. Rousseau believed Machiavelli was a republic. Isn't Buttigieg Machiavelli? Okay. Yeah, Machiavelli does seem to have some kind of mercantile liberal element to him. He is Venetian, isn't he? Oh, he was a conservative. Did Machiavelli support the First Amendment? Machiavellian minoritarian. It said to message you first and then post in respect. Yeah, now you figured it out. But some other people haven't figured it out. That's okay. Not everyone's going to figure out a 2-sentence simple instruction on Discord. That's okay. Not everyone needs to be lurking in my Discord. Really, the purpose is to bring people in the show. Really, I want to talk to people and have a conversation via voice or video, but no one wants to do that. So it's just a ghost Discord right now. Ken needs to read commentary on Livy, so I don't have to. Well, post a link, so I don't know what you're talking about. What does that mean, commentary on Livy? Gypsies are minoritarian. By the way, Kenneth is just blatantly misreading Machiavelli. Read the discourses yourself. Tyson Fury is technically minoritarian. How is he blatantly misreading them? Gypsy bruh. Machiavelli constantly insists in discourses that popular elements within the community form best safeguard of civic liberty as well as the most reliable source of decision making about public good. Okay, popular elements, what does that mean? Does that mean the 90% of people, or does that mean like the 10% of the aristocracy who own land and who write the Constitution? Ken just fixed Machiavelli, we can rest easy. Big letters, you didn't follow the rules, bro. I don't know what fourth density is saying. Thick font, what do you mean by popular elements? The problem with Machiavellian republicanism consists of two parts. Number one, Machiavellian. Number two, republicanism. Cromwell, you Machiavellian 4D chess playing rascal, you. MAGA CAG 2020. What does that have to do with Machiavelli? The problem with Cromwell's interpretation of Machiavelli is twofold. I'm a king. Hello, kings. Machiavelli was a Republican in principle with democratic tendencies. However, he was also a pragmatist and believed Italy had to be united first, and that the Roman Catholic Church was an obstacle. Okay, interesting. Machiavelli is definitely big merchant. His hero was Dante. Interesting. Ken intuits the entire Western canon, all of political science, while Cromwell yells about wrong sources and poor translations. The Roman Catholic Church often was an obstacle, hence the rise of Protestantism and the divine right of kings. Virgin, cite your sources versus chat intuition. Alexander. Yeah, that is funny. No, you can't just read the wrong quote, bro. You're wrong. I suppose the direct authority of the Pope in central Italy hindered the rise of absolutism in a way that much more limiting than somewhere far off like England. Very good point. Very good point you're making there, Jacob. That whereas Henry VIII was able to bring about absolutist liberalism far off in England, the Italians, they were stuck with the Catholic Church. Hi, we're piggybacking your stream, Dennis Dale. Dennis Dale, aren't you an old, not an old man, that's not what I was going to say, but I didn't want to say fellow guy, associate. Aren't you, I've seen you, I've heard your name, Dennis Dale. If I search that on YouTube, what comes up? Dennis Dale. Dennis Dale Untethered live streams. He is Dennis Dale training with a sheet of paper. Okay. What is going on here? Dennis Dale has an eye patch. I don't think that's the real Dennis Dale. I have subscribed to you. We'll find out what you're about, Dennis Dale. Dennis Dale has been on YouTube. Oh, we have Quid Est Veritas. These names sound familiar to me. Who are these people? I'm subscribing, and I am looking at the channel. We're subbed to Justin Murphy, Jay Dyer. Some of these people. Okay. All right. We've got a Russian playlist of Russian stuff. We're taking a look at some notifications. And then we're going back to the chat. Dale, Dale, Dale. It is unacceptable. Yes, the Pope did not have enough power to unite Italy, but enough power to prevent others from doing so. Of course, he was a nationalist. The Pope was a nationalist, or Machiavelli was a nationalist? Hello, Dale. Okay, we go now. Good stream. Thank you, Dale. Is he saying princes are just like regular people? Read the correct source, mister. I don't know. I don't know what the correct was. Send me a link or something. Machiavellianism was fundamentally a Pope cope. You can send, I'll make you a temporary moderator. We'll see how this turns out. I'll make you a moderator, post a link. We'll see what happens. We'll see what chaos ensues when everyone gets banned by Cromwell. Machiavellianism was fundamentally a Pope cope. Will subscribe. Thank you. I'm literally smacking my own head. Hi, literally smacking my own head right now. I'm dad. But as to prudence and stability, I say a people is more prudent, more stable, and of better judgment than a prince, and not without reason is the voice of the people like that of God, for a universal opinion is seen causes marvelous effects in its prognostication, so that it would seem that by some hidden virtue, evil or good is foreseen. I'm a bigger philosopher than you'll ever be because at least I read the correct sources. Well, if you're not reading philosophy, it doesn't matter whether they're correct or incorrect. This isn't Edgar Allan Poe. Bigger philosophy than you'll ever know how to do, be Mr. Sun, the voice of 51% of the people. Ken jokes as he lets ironic FBI username into his Discord. 10 minutes later, the stream is being piggybacked by a man named Dale. Who knows, guys? Who knows? I've just accepted it. I've just accepted that the FBI is here to stay, and there's nothing I can do about them. They're just in it. You can't, I mean, it's like, how can you, they can just like go to Discord and be like, I want to spy on this person. NSA, they can just spy. There's nothing secret. There's nothing private on the internet. Unless it's encrypted, and Discord is definitely not encrypted. So to me, Discord is a public thing. I pretty much let anyone into the Discord who is intelligent enough to follow the 2-sentence instructions on how to be added to the Discord. Many people, however, are too lazy to actually read the 2 sentences, and so they never actually get made into a rule respecter. You have censored half of the words in the English language. True. 51% of the general population speaks for God. The other 49% are demons. I baked you a pie. Oh boy, what flavor? Pie. Dad, I'm hungry. Hi, hungry. I'm Dad. Why did you name me this way? Wow, I can use dang, but not the D word, not the strong D. Ooh, we got some W's in the chat. Where's my W? I got my W here. Yeah, my back is, of course, not doing so well, but that's fine. I wish in the same way that I can use water to quench my thirstiness, I wish there was some kind of W for my back. Like I can massage myself with my knuckles. But then I can't scroll through the chat. It's okay, I'm not an alien. W. Who's that famous streamer guy who watched Ken? It's definitely not baked. But that famous streamer guy is an obscure guy. He's a secret guy. HWB hand washing break. I don't have a reason to wash my hands. I've just been staying put. So I don't have a reason for that. I don't think Cromwell is much of a philosopher, despite the fact that I'm vastly more well-read. Yeah, I'm sure you've read a bunch of engineering textbooks and car manuals. But I don't think you've read philosophy. Is he even reading this stuff or just speaking it out loud? Interesting distinction. Ken should read the daily morning prayer of the Episcopal Church. Well, maybe you should send it to me, Jacob, and I'll take a look at it. I'll make you a mod. Imagine Friar Brown celebrating Holy Eucharist is a minoritarian church in the county. Mysterious is the sign of the cross. The sign of the bros. Let's pray some brosaries. Ken is the meme of the guy talking to his GF about a party about class structures. Yeah, I've got the female and I'm yelling into her ear and I'm like, the minoritarian class structure is the only analysis that actually understands the ecology of the post-industrial society. And she's got a face that's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, you need to watch my 400 hours of YouTube videos to understand. Something like that. You think Machiavelli knew nothing about merchants? He lived within Florence. He was tortured by the Medicis, the great banking family. We might have to learn all about Machiavelli. Why, yes, I have Microsoft Sam reading out Nemesis, the pinnacle of Western political science. As Kenneth reads Machiavelli, it's called being clear-pilled. Represent Chris Bond. He even worked for the Medicis after they tortured him because he believed it was the correct thing to do politically. That is the mark of the man. He is the greatest strategist in human history. Okay. Sounds like a cuck, but that's okay. Maybe he's a great strategist. Let's take a look. We're almost at the end of the chat here. The Church of the Holy Bro. Why, yes, I love making monkey noises sometimes. Cardinal Robert Sara meme. Finally, a canonical justification for bruh. Incoherent rambling. The Virgin versus the Chad. All right, thank you for your contribution. Why, yes, I do thing. How tell? The Chad is good, by the way. I am like this Chad person. Where is Kenneth seeing Quid and Dennis? I don't know. They are ghosts. I'm currently being piggy. Fourth density. It's not like that. Pope is a nationalism. Tupac admired Machiavelli. Dante was a supporter of the land-owning Ghibellines against the merchant Guelphs. Or do I have that mixed up? I don't. This Italian stuff. I know very little about Italian history. I probably know more about French history, which is saying not enough. I know the German, and I know some English history, and I know a little smattering of the Polish and the Russian. But I'm like, after Rome collapsed, I'm like, okay, Italy, you're finished, you're done, you're dead. You know, you're like, Spangler refers to you as some kind of like crusty old like toast that you find under the couch or something. Being very harsh against Italy here. But I just never felt the need to like study Italian history other than maybe in the context of the Renaissance and artwork and things like that. But all this like Machiavelli stuff, maybe we're going to have to dive into this. Maybe this is good. Dante was a supporter. Okay, we've read that. Nationalism is when you do a death threat. W for the back is yoga. Yeah, that's what they say. Maybe I should do some back stretches. But the problem is, like, I used to think I was very flexible in the back because I could do a bridge. And then it's my sacrum mostly. If it was just my back muscles getting sore from standing, that'd be one thing, but it's the whole setup. Also, while we're complaining, I chipped my tooth yesterday on my glass water bottle. I haven't chipped my tooth in years and years and years. And it's really painful. And I can't go to a dentist because of coronavirus. It's very sad right now. It's like a small little fracture, but I can feel it. It feels like a razor blade in my mouth. Just while I'm complaining here, I might as well just get it all out. Do you use a standing desk? Yes. With quotes, you can say anything you want. It's really quite straightforward. Inhale, rise. Exhale, fold. So is that the cat-cow maneuver? Exhale, folding over. Inhaling, rise. Exhaling, fold. Inhaling, rise. Exhaling, fold. Are we going to do some yoga on stream? I'm an ace of all spades, pal. I've read more than you could ever conceive, and stop confusing engineers with car mechanics. You guys are the same thing. Let's take a look at the Jacob. What Jacob? Okay. Is this up? No, that doesn't exist anymore. Or wait, what if we put it on top, though? Oh, here we go. All right. We're going to take that. And then we're going to take this. And then we're going to take this. So we're going to learn today about, what is this? Let's zoom in a little bit. Let's zoom in a lot of it. Let's zoom in intensely. And then let's scroll a little bit. In the wilderness. Okay. Where are we? This is the daily. Oh, this is too big. Got to make that smaller. That's still too big. Got to make it smaller. The daily morning prayer, right to the officiant begins the service with one or more of these sentences of scripture, or with the vesicle, Lord, open our lips. Advent, watch for you For you know not when the master of the house will come, in the evening, or at midnight, or at cockcrow, or in the morning, lest he come suddenly and find you asleep. In the wilderness prepare the way of the Lord, make straight in the desert a highway for our God. The glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together. Behold, I bring you good news of a great joy, which will come to all the people. For unto you is born this day in the city of David a Savior, who is Christ the Lord. Behold, the dwelling of God is with mankind. He will dwell with them, and they shall be his people, and God himself will be with them and be their God. That is the morning prayer, right? Just the top? Or do we also read the Epiphany? Nations shall come. How long is this before I go on another? How long is this? This is the Epiphany. This is for Lent. This is for Holy Week. This is morning prayer number 2. There's another morning prayer number 2. Okay. There's a lot of stuff here. And it's not really, I mean, you want me to do the whole mass for you on stream? I don't know if that's what people are looking for right now. So we'll leave that to the side. Inhale, Arta, halfway up. I don't know what Ken doing a Roman? I don't know what you mean by that. Exhale, fold. All right, I'll do some exhaling. Oh, that does feel good on the back. Does feel good on the back. Repeat with good form and you'll be good, bro. Maybe this is the right. Do I have good form, though? I don't know if I have good form. Renaissance humanist invented ancient history with forged texts. Dante was part of the white Guelphs who opposed papal influence as opposed to the black Guelphs. Oh my goodness, the Guelphs. Or the Guelphs. The Guelphs. All these Guelphs, dude. Kenneth pretending he's read more than me. I don't even read books. Name your philosopher, I'll name you a quote. Yeah, I want a Heidegger quote. Stat, give me a Heidegger quote. I want you to quote Heidegger, Cromwell. When I look at Italy, I say my ancestors. I've spent my entire life being a Renaissance man, the ultimate polymath, the masterless man, ceaseless ambition. I think he means, what do you mean ceaseless ambition? Ceaseless, I think you mean. And in comes Kenneth crapping on all of it. That's true. It happens more as you grow older. Cromwell confirmed. Oh, we have this word. We got to take that word out. It's a contentious word. That is a red flag word. Let's go into the YouTube studio and let's go take it out. Where is it in the YouTube studio? It's happening less and less, but you know, every now and then we got to go in. We got to add another word to the list of words that I don't want to accidentally say on stream, lest I be flagged. I read every day because I'm an intense man. I work nonstop, and here you come along, lucky maverick, pretending you've read. I've never said I've read more philosophy. I just understand philosophy better than you. I don't name like a philosopher that you've read. Machiavelli is not a philosopher. He's zooming, about to eat chicken and dumplings while listening to morning prayer. It's been a good Sunday. I am a man possessed. He's reading it all when it's meant to be read according to season, still blessed. I'm not going to read all. I understand that it's by season. I'm not totally ignorant. Ken, will you join my rock band of internet intellectuals? I don't know how to read that. It's pronounced suede. Well, send me. I'm looking for a drummer. I'm not a drummer, so I don't think I can join. But send me your stuff. I'll listen to it. Heidegger quote. Okay, that's not. How did you even post that word? That's a word that should be censored. We censor swear words on this channel. How the heck Did you possibly post that word? Man, this is crazy. All right. We're not reading swear words. Didn't know that was a thing. Yeah, we're keeping it rated G on this channel as much as possible. You know, and if I ever talk about sexual topics, that's okay, because sex ed is for 5-year-olds, so that's an exception. A reading of the apocryphal book called Tobit would be a cozy stream. You gotta send me a link. I don't even know what a Tobit is. Is that a video game? Is that a... You don't understand more about philosophy. You still haven't given me a Heidegger quote, so... Is it time to eat something? Is it time to take a break? Let me see. What I haven't done is I have the 15-second Biden thing, but I don't have a 5-minute version. I should make a 5-minute version. What do you think? That's the Red Death right there. Let's see if I can make a 5-minute version. There's Mask of the Red Death. Ho. Just delete that for now. And then we go in here, we go to projects, and it should be under Biden. If we double click on Biden. And some people, dude, big male, you're swearing in the chat. This is not okay. How did I miss these swear words for so long? It's because no one was swearing, because everyone was being polite. We need politeness in this chat. Guitarist, bassist, singer. I was reading W.A. Ross the other day. I'm familiar with a ton of philosophers you never heard of. Yeah, because they're not important. Have you ever heard, do you understand any of the big philosophers? I don't think so. Tobias. Okay, we'll take a look at Tobias. The book of Tobit. The book of Tobias. Maybe we'll take a look at that. But I need a bathroom break, and possibly I need to grab some food. But what I also need is, let's see, if I need to copy Biden. Let's do a duplication of the project. Sir Lawrence Oliver reading Book of Deborah is gold standard. Plato, Aristotle. So you haven't read Heidegger. That's sad. Very sad. He hasn't read Heidegger. All right, so let's go into iMovie. And let's delete this. And let's delete this. And let's take this and let's lengthen it. Whoa, that's loud, isn't it? And let's take this and let's lengthen it all the way out. Whoa, that's loud, isn't it? It's a very loud song. Okay. So now that we have that, we're going to copy all of this and all of this. And then we're going to repost it, paste it. Paste to post. Okay, we got that. We paste to post it. And we go 1 and 2. And let's see what this transition looks like. It's a nice quick transition. So keep just copy pasting that for visual effect. 2:17, 3:25, 3:42. Have we gotten to, oh, here we go. All right. So now what we need to do is go into the share function and save this as Biden 5-minute intro/interlude. So we'll save that in the movies section. And that'll take about 5 minutes to process. I have read Heidegger. I asked you for a Heidegger quote. I still haven't gotten one. Not even kidding, Chomsky is underrated. Ignore his political theory. Dissolved mind-body problem in a paragraph. I gave you a Heidegger reference the other day. Doesn't matter. If you can't quote him on the spot, then you're done. You're absolutely done. There's no hope left. But what I can do here is I can utilize my technological prowess to make this a really big iMovie screen so I don't have to wait for the thing to actually load up. So we're going to make this really big so that everyone has a good view. Yes, now it's very large. And then we're going to make this small. And then we're going to go into window capture. And then we're going to go into iMovie. And, I don't want Windows Server. I want iMovie, thank you. Why does it do this to me? iMovie. And then we're going to go into making it smaller. And then we're going to go into putting it over here like this. And then we'll make it slightly bigger. And then we'll bring it down here like that. Perfect. Isn't this perfect? And then we'll go into the system preferences. We'll do a output as the multi-output at. Let's see if this works. Let's see if I can see what's going on here. Oh man. That is enough of that. I got myself a snack, some quinoa, turkey bacon with butter. It's pretty good. See how we're doing. Let's check the... Looks good. Looks good on the audio front to me. Change this back to output. Internal speakers. Turn that volume down. That was pretty loud. Let's go back. When I stated that Heidegger said that Parmenides and Heraclitus were saying the same thing. Okay. Remembers when rappers used to call girls shorty. The dumplings are a little too hot to eat. Gotta let them cool. Are you buying all this? He listens to rap. Banish him. I used the wrong too. Now I'm stupid. I'm being hypnotized by Biden. It was fun being part of the big brain crowd while it lasted. Why, yes, I'd like it if Biden sniffed my hair. I bet Cromwell frequents JFG. Now I dislike him and he's French. Yeah, audio is good. So we have the Tobias, the Book of Tobit. I think I just want to read the Wikipedia entry about it. I think I just want to see what Wikipedia has to say about the Book of Tobit, rather than actually reading the Book of Tobit myself. Let's, this is a window capture. So that's, can I rename this to be Poe? Will that work? That works, okay. So that's, and then we have a video capture device, and then we have a window capture, which is gone. And then we have Minecraft over here. That's not for this channel, though. Book of Tobit. Let's create a window capture for the Book of Tobit. Where are you at, Book of Tobit? Okay, here we are, Book of Tobit. And I'm over here. And the Book of Tobit might be too... Whoa. What's going on? Things are kind of bugging out over here. It's too much, too fast with the Book of Tobit. The Book of Tobit is a book of scripture that is part of the Catholic and Orthodox biblical canons. This is what was stolen from me. I always say I've read the Bible, but I didn't because I read a Protestant Bible. So I actually haven't read the Bible because I haven't read the Book of Tobit. Yeah, it's not found in the Jewish biblical canon. Not Protestant, not Jewish, just pure Catholic Orthodox dogma here. The Book of Tobit, Augustine affirms it. So the Church of England lists it as Apocrypha. It was not included in the Tanakh. It's not considered canonical. Move this over here. Move this over here. Close that. In Judaism, before the 1952 discovery of fragments of Tobit, scholars believe Tobit was not included in Jewish canon. Qumran fragments, Book of Daniel, halakhical reason. Tobit was excluded from Jewish scriptures for a halakhic reason, because Raguel wrote the marriage document discussed. So it violates rabbinical law. Ancient Jewish rabbinical scholars believe Tobit to be canonical. A number of Jews in Israel have sought to reclaim Tobit. So this is Tobias. The book tells the story of Tobit, a righteous Israelite of the tribe of Naphtali, living in Nineveh after Sargon II had deported the northern tribes of Israel to Assyria in 721 BC. In the two Greek versions, the first 2.5 chapters are written in the first person. In the Vulgate version, they're written in the third person. Tobit, raised by his paternal grandmother Deborah, remains loyal to the worship of God at the temple in Jerusalem, refusing the cult of the golden calves that Jeroboam, king of the northern kingdom of Israel, set up at Dan. He is particularly noted for his diligence in attempting to provide proper burials for fallen Israelites whom Sargon's successor, Sennacherib, has slain. For this behavior, the king seizes his property and exiles him. After Sennacherib's death, Tobit's allowed to return to Nineveh, where he buries a man who has been murdered on the street. That night he sleeps in the open and is blinded by bird droppings which fall in his eyes. His blindness subsequently leads him to falsely accuse his wife, Anna, of stealing a baby goat she had received as partial payment for work she had done. This strains his marriage, and ultimately he prays for death. Meanwhile, in faraway Media, so Persia, a young woman named Sarah has prayed for death in despair. The demon of lust, Asmodeus, the worst of demons, abducts and kills every man Sarah marries on their wedding night before the marriage can be consummated. God sends the angel Raphael, disguised as a human, to heal Tobit and free Sarah from the demon. The main narrative is dedicated to Tobit's son, Tobiah, or Tobiah, who is sent by his father to collect money that the elder has deposited in distant Media. Raphael presents himself as Tobit's kinsman, Azariah, and offers to aid and protect Tobias. Under Raphael's guidance, Tobias journeys to Media with his dog. It's a wholesome dog story. Along the way, while washing his feet in the river Tigris, a fish tries to swallow his foot. By the angel's order, he captures it and removes its heart, liver, and gallbladder. Upon arriving in Media, Raphael tells Tobias of the beautiful Sarah, whom Tobias has the right to marry because he is her cousin and closest relative. The angel instructs the young man to burn the fish's liver and heart to drive away the demon when he attacks on the wedding night. The two marry, and the fumes of the burning organs drive the demon to Upper Egypt, where Raphael follows and binds him. This is pretty magical. Demons really hate the smell of burning organs, but God is a big fan, according to the Old Testament. Oh, we got a scam likely. Turn that off. Sarah's father had been digging a grave to secretly bury Tobias under the assumption he would be killed. Surprised to find his son-in-law alive and well, he orders a double-length wedding feast and has the grave secretly filled. Since the feast prevents him from leaving, Tobias sends Raphael to recover his father's money. After the feast, Tobias and Sarah return to Nineveh. There, Raphael tells the youth to use the fish's gall to cure his father's blindness. Raphael then reveals his identity, returns to heaven, and Tobit sings a hymn of praise. Tobit tells his son to leave Nineveh before God destroys it, according to prophecy. After the prayer, Tobit dies at an advanced age. After burying his father and mother, Tobias returns to Media with his family. Interesting. Cool story. He's got dogs, he's got angels. Kind of reminds me of that Disney movie where the guy has like the genie and he goes on an adventure. Kind of what that reminds me of. Let's look back here. We should do a movie watching party. Yeah, you're going to have to send me a movie that's not copyrighted though. And also, I'm going to pause the movie every 5 seconds to analyze it, so that might make it painful. I've offered to debate Kenneth before, but he refuses to make good promotion. Well, I've offered to debate Cromwell before, but he refuses to pay me $100. Is that a good excuse? Make your own promotion, you lazy Brit. Make your own promotion on your own channel, and let's debate, but you won't. Very sad. Why would I waste my time creating a promotion for someone who has nothing interesting to say? Biden's mental health will continue declining through his presidency. He'd rival Trump's bizarre statements. I've told him to work on his YouTube brand and promote my upcoming debate with him rather than elevating Biden all day long. Yeah, because that's what we're talking about. Because I've talked about Biden a lot during the stream. Does this now count as attempt number 3 after the break? Possibly. Why, yes, I make Biden 2020 videos instead of debating YouTube user Cromwell. Is Cromwell open for debate, but Ken is dodging? Yeah, that is absolutely what's happening. The Qumran community was interesting. What is this? What do you mean when you say Qumran? What's Qumran? I've never heard of Qumran. An archaeological site in the West Bank. The Hellenistic pyramid. Whoops. What's going on? History. Qumran. It's between Jericho and Masada. We got scrolls, we got cemeteries, the Essenes, the Zadokites, the Sadduceans, the Hasmoneans. Okay. There's all sorts of weird things going on in Qumran. We've got some chronologies of Qumran. We've got, okay. So 900 BCE, destruction of the first temple ends the early age. Then you have Pompey, Rome, which I guess these are different interpretations of the chronology. And Jewish revolt, destruction of Masada, Bar Kokhba revolt. Okay. Things are going on in the Iron Age. Things are going on. We're just scrolling. I'm just absorbing all this information at lightning speed. I want it to be the Cromwell experience, not the Biden experience, the dramatic debate at the beginning of the show, rather than that cheesy music we're used to. Qumran, yes, you heard that right. The way I see it, yes, because he makes no effort to promote. Why am I going to make an effort to promote? He thinks I'll just hop on his channel and monologue for hours until everyone falls asleep like that Beaver dude. Well, you certainly do monologue for a long time in the chat. Maybe you should get on the Chadcast with a third-party moderator. They had some good debate promos. No, you have to earn every minute I'm on your show. No, I don't. I could do anything and you'd still be here commenting. I'm the creme de la creme, the top dog. No, you're a scared dog. You're a dog with all bark and no bite. The Michelin star chef of surprise Discord calls. Strange meal, is this how the enlightened ones eat? We got to have some good debate promos with some parameters for debate. I don't want to talk. I want to smell your fear. Kenneth is eating. I'm eating. Nice dinner. Who here has dog? Press 1 if dog. Semolina is good if you're looking for something between a meal and a dessert. Sometimes I have it for breakfast with fruit. I'm not familiar with that, but maybe it is good. Maybe after Corona, we'll try out some of those foods. It's a stupid dog, though. Not even worth mentioning. Why, yes, I'm about to send a death threat to you. No, I'm not going to say that. Death threats are not good. Every problem has a solution. Aardvark sent me threats. I don't think he promising to deal with me. Okay. Well, why don't you show us those threats? Why don't you create a YouTube channel where you show us all the threats he's made? I don't have a YouTube channel. I'm here to, yes, you do. You're commenting using your YouTube channel. I'm here to hijack yours. You'll get free subscribers, but you got to promote it. Messianic pre-Jesus group Essenes. Who is here from Cromwell's personal army? Press C if you're Cromwell gang. CCC. Why, yes, your chat is defecting, Ken. You're going down. I might have to run pretty soon. Might have to run and hide from this. We've been going pretty long. I was so productive this weekend, it will blow your minds. Aardvark. What does it have to do? Okay, I can't continue to read the memes. Torn between following chat, trying to contribute and participate in life. Nice to see him no longer acting passive-aggressive, finally showing his true spirit. Why, yes, I appreciate Kenneth showing his true colors after harassing him for hours. Stop blaming the victim. I think we've done enough for today. I'm going to end it, and I will see you guys next week. Bye-bye.